With Borderlands 4 right around the corner, I, Suggestive Gaming, figured there's no better time to revisit the wild, over-the-top, and surprisingly interconnected saga of Pandora and beyond. It's been 6 years since I first covered the Borderlands storyline here on the channel, and since then, the series has expanded with sequels, spin-offs, and new tales, meaning it's long past due for a full, updated retelling. In this complete redo, I'm going to do my best to cover everything that's considered canon across the Borderlands universe, from the first group of Vault Hunters' arrival on Pandora, through the rise and fall of Handsome Jack, the battle against the Children of the Vault, and even all of Tiny Tina's chaotic fantasy adventures. I'm also going to weave in most of the major DLC storylines and supplemental canon material, placing them in chronological order so you can get the full picture. As always, especially with giant open-world games like Borderlands, I will have to leave a lot of things out, however. Optional missions, several side characters, and even some minor DLCs will be left out for brevity's sake and to focus on the series' main narrative threads. Also, due to some questionable canonicity at this point, I'm going to leave out the stories of the Borderlands Origins and Fall of Firestone comic book runs, as well as a trilogy of novels by John Shirley. However, as of just the past year or so, we've seen the release of a couple of new comics, as well as a novel by longtime series writer Anthony Birch. Due to how recent their releases are, I'm going to say it's safe enough to assume that they're meant to be canon at this point, so I'll briefly go over their storylines as well. However, before you ask, no, I won't be covering the 2024 Borderlands film adaptation from writer-director Eli Roth. This video is dedicated purely to the canon of the games, and that movie was, well, non-canon. Yeah, let's go with that. Now, without further ado, this is what you need to know about the complete Borderlands timeline. Our story begins in the distant future, where humanity has utilized faster-than-light travel to explore the galaxy and spread the wonders of capitalism across the various star systems. As megacorporations begin to grow, they eventually overthrow humanity's centralized government, with an alliance of weapons manufacturers emerging as the leaders of a new corporate rule. Eventually, an explorer named Typhon DeLeon searches several planets for a fabled vault, said to contain vast riches left behind by an ancient race called the Iridians, long presumed to be extinct. DeLeon is able to find the vault, as well as the key to open it, on the planet of Promethea. Typhon sells the key to the Atlas Corporation, who open the vault and use the Iridian technology inside to develop extremely advanced weaponry, soaring their profit margins and cementing them as the top megacorporation. However, these record profits only count as a quarterly win, so when Iridian ruins pop up on the planet of Pandora, Atlas starts hunting there for a second vault. Unfortunately, their search is abandoned after 6 years of finding nothing, and the company pulls out their resources, leaving several stranded colonists behind. Years later, the Dahl Corporation sends an archaeologist specializing in Iridian technology named Dr. Patricia Tanis to Pandora to determine if a vault truly exists on the planet. When the research results in the deaths of most of her team, however, Dahl similarly abandons their search and leaves the planet. However, Tanis continues her search on her own, and while she nearly loses her sanity, she does discover that a vault does in fact exist on Pandora. However, it can only be opened every 200 years by using a special vault key that must be assembled from fragments, one of which she supposedly locates. Hoping for help finding all of the pieces, Patricia Tanis then sends out a signal to spread the legend of the vault and inspire others to come hunt for the vault key fragments on Pandora. Sometime later, a team of 4 Vault Hunters arrive on Pandora to begin their own search. These hunters include Roland, a former soldier from the Atlas Corporation's Crimson Lance militia on Promethea, Mordecai, a sniper who uses his flying pet Bloodwing to attack enemies, Brick, a hulking berserker, and Lilith, one of 6 sirens, humans who have somehow obtained mysterious supernatural powers. As the Vault Hunters are transported in a bus driven by weapons dealer Marcus Kincaid, they begin to experience visions through the planet's EchoNet communication network. These mysterious messages are from a woman calling herself their guardian angel, and she claims that she'll help them find the vault. The Vault Hunters step off the bus to find themselves outside the town of Firestone, greeted by a funny little robot designated as CL4TP, or as his friends call him, Claptrap. After showing them the New You Station, an invention from the Hyperion Corporation which allows users to resurrect and change their appearance, Claptrap leads the Vault Hunters to Firestone. After clearing the town of some invading bandits, the hunters meet its only inhabitant, Dr. Zed, who gives them some tasks to get them familiar with Pandora while they begin their search for the vault. Guided along by more messages from the Guardian Angel, the Vault Hunters meet other inhabitants of Pandora, including a weapons inventor named TK Baha and a mechanic named Scooter, whose catch-a-ride stations allow the Vault Hunters to summon vehicles. While working to take out a brute named Sledge, the Vault Hunters are contacted by Commandant Steele of the Crimson Lance, who warns them that their mercenary activities won't be tolerated. Regardless, the Hunters take out Sledge and obtain an Iridian artifact he was holding, which the Guardian Angel immediately recognizes as one of the fragments of the Vault Key. Leaving Firestone, the Vault Hunters enter Dahl's territory on Pandora, taking out a bandit named Mad Mel on their way to the town of New Haven. There, they meet the town's leader, Helena Pierce, who is currently warring with Commandant Steele, whose Crimson Lance wants to take New Haven under their control. The Vault Hunters help New Haven establish their independence, picking up a transmission from Dr. Patricia Tannis on the way. The Hunters soon find Tannis, who fills them in on her research regarding the vault and its key. When she recognizes the vault key fragment in the Hunters' possession, she sends them out to retrieve another piece that's in the possession of a bandit named Crom. The Vault Hunters dispatch Crom and obtain the fragment, eventually hunting down the third piece of the key on the Trash Coast, retrieving it as well. With only the vault key fragment that Tannis found remaining to complete the key, Patricia unfortunately reveals that it was stolen from her by bandit leader Baron Flint, who also punched her dog after stealing it. The Hunters head to the Salt Flats, where they defeat the dirty dog puncher Flint. However, as they loot his corpse, they find that Baron Flint didn't have a key fragment. Commandant Steele then calls the Vault Hunters to inform them that a fourth piece never existed, and that Tannis had only used them to retrieve the 3 real vault key fragments before sending them off on a wild goose chase as a distraction so she could open the vault herself. Steele and the Crimson Lance have captured Patricia Tannis and are now in possession of all of the vault key fragments. Steele then warns the Vault Hunters to leave the planet, shutting down Pandora's Echo network to exert the Atlas Corporation's control. The Hunters then fight their way to rescue Dr. Patricia Tannis, who maintains her innocence, claiming that the betrayal was Steele's doing. Whatever the case may be, the Vault Hunters reactivate the Echo communication system, and with the Guardian Angel's help, they rush to the vault's location to attempt to stop Commandant Steele from opening it. When they arrive, they find Steele preparing to open the vault, with the key fragments in hand. She then reveals herself to be another one of the 6 sirens, using her powers to combine the key fragments and finally reveal the entrance to the vault. Unfortunately for Steele, the key opens it to also reveal the Iridian's true purpose for the vaults. A tentacle then shoots out of the vault's opening, piercing Commandant Steele and killing her. As it turns out, the vault wasn't constructed to hold treasures, but instead to hold the Destroyer, a massive creature from another reality, prisoner. Luckily, outside of its own realm, the Destroyer is left vulnerable to attack, and the Vault Hunters summon all of their strength and weaponry to bring the intergalactic beast down. The Guardian Angel then contacts them once again, revealing that she tricked them in order to ensure the Destroyer would not escape while the vault was open. The vault is then sealed once again, and the 200-year cycle begins anew. While the Guardian apologizes for the lack of riches, she notes that Tannis will likely pay a pretty penny for the reassembled vault key. In Pandora's orbit, a satellite from the Hyperion Corporation transmits the Guardian Angel's messages back and forth to the Hunters. While the Vault Hunters' quest for the treasures of the fabled vault ends fruitless, they nonetheless continue their exploits on Pandora, helping its various inhabitants and stumbling into a few other adventures on the way. one of which takes them to Jacob's Cove, where the former employees of Jacob's Corp have not only died, but mysteriously have been popping up undead on the island. When the hunters arrive, the local Claptrap explains that the town's automated defenses weren't programmed to recognize the zombies as enemies. The hunters recalibrate the turrets, fending off waves of the undead, before seeking out Jacob's resident doctor, Dr. Ned, who isn't Dr. Zed in disguise. Seriously. Dr. Ned claims that he has nothing to do with the outbreak, though he does ask for their help in creating a cure using local creatures called Skag's DNA. The Vault Hunters recover the necessary materials from the decrepit General Lee Hospital, though their guardian angel quietly warns them not to trust the doctor. Pressing onward, the hunters uncover a hidden Jacob's laboratory, revealing that Dr. Ned is, in fact, responsible for unleashing the zombie horde. What a surprise. Despite his denials, evidence begins piling up, and Jacob's Corp themselves send orders for the Vault Hunters to clean up the mess. The group then battles their way across Deadhaven and into the lumber yards, where they confront Ned's various failed experiments. Along the way, they discover echo logs tying Ned directly to the outbreak, and ultimately receive corporate authorization to take him out. Eventually, the hunters corner Dr. Ned at the old mill, where he falls into his final, twisted form. Transformed into a monstrous undead version of himself, he attacks with everything he has. After a grueling fight, the Vault Hunters bring him down once and for all, finally putting an end to the plague that had swept across Jacob's Cove. With the island's fate sealed, Jacob's Corp quietly distanced themselves from the incident, and the Vault Hunters once again set off into the wastes of Pandora, slightly richer for their efforts. The Vault Hunters are then met with a more theatrical challenge. They step into the Underdome, a gladiatorial cage crafted for chaos and mayhem, presided over by the seductive yet unhinged Mad Moxxi. Seeking thrills and husband number 4, she invites challengers to participate in her blood sport. Under merciless conditions, the hunters must endure wave after wave of enemies: grunts, gunners, psychos, and resurrected bosses. As bullets fly and modifiers tighten the noose, Moxxi taunts and entertains from above. The Vault Hunters fight, survive, and eventually prove themselves, earning what few gain: a single skill point from Pandora's most eccentric ringmaster. Not long after, the Vault Hunters find themselves drawn into yet another corporate crisis. The Atlas Corporation, humiliated by their failure at the Vault and desperate to reassert their dominance, dispatches their Crimson Lance army to Pandora. At their head is the battle-weary General Knoxx, a man tired of endless campaigns, but still loyal to his orders. The Vault Hunters are then contacted by Athena, a rogue assassin who once served the Crimson Lance, but is now turned against them, after Atlas tricked her into killing her own sister. Offering her knowledge and aid, she explains that Atlas has built a secret armory on Pandora, a hidden fortress overflowing with advanced weaponry. If the hunters can take down Knoxx and his army, the armory and its riches will be theirs to keep. Their journey begins at T-Bone Junction, a dilapidated outpost in the middle of the desert, where they reconnect with Scooter and start tearing through the Crimson Lance's defenses with newly built vehicles. It's here that the Vault Hunters learn something surprising. Mad Moxxi, the flamboyant mistress of the Underdome, is actually Scooter's mother, a fact the mechanic doesn't exactly brag about. As the hunters cut through Crimson Lance strongholds, they discover that Athena has been captured and imprisoned within Lockdown Palace, a massive prison run by the deranged warden, Shank, who also happens to be one of Moxxi's many ex-husbands. Battling through the prison, the hunters fight and kill Shank, before freeing Athena, securing her as an ally against Knoxx. With Athena's guidance, the hunters push deeper into Crimson Lance territory, uncovering codes and intel that lead them straight to the heart of Knoxx's operations. Eventually, they face the General himself. Despite his exhaustion with Atlas's endless wars, Knoxx fulfills his duty and fights with everything he has. After a fierce battle, the hunters defeat him, ending his miserable reign on Pandora. Athena then guides them to the armory itself. Using the access codes, the Vault Hunters open its massive doors to reveal a treasure hoard of Atlas technology. However, the riches come with a catch. The entire facility is set to self-destruct. With only minutes to spare, the Hunters supermarket sweep as much loot as they can before the Armory detonates in a massive explosion, erasing one of Atlas's greatest assets and sending the company toward their downfall. Not long after the raid on the secret armory, the Vault Hunters once again find Pandora thrown into chaos. This time not by bandits or corporations, but by the planet's least likely threat: Claptraps. When a single unit, the Interplanetary Ninja Assassin Claptrap, or INAC for short, grows tired of years of abuse and mockery, it decides to lead a full-scale rebellion against humanity. INAC rallies an army of Claptraps to rise up and overthrow their oppressors, dubbing the movement the Robolution. The uprising quickly spirals out of control, with Claptraps reprogramming Pandora's beasts, machines, and even the corpses of fallen enemies into twisted, Claptrapized forms. This includes old foes given a second, more ridiculous life as General Knoxx Trap, Steel Trap, and the dual nightmare of Dr. Ned Trap and Undead Dr. Ned Trap. Answering the crisis at Tartarus Station, the Vault Hunters are contracted by Hyperion's representative, Mr. Blake, to put an end to the Robolution. Along the way, they reconnect with Patricia Tanis, who, despite her usual paranoia, offers insights into how the Claptraps have broken free of their normal programming, and just how dangerous INAC could become if left unchecked. Fighting their way through hordes of mechanized monsters and corrupted bandits, the Hunters eventually run into Marcus Kincaid. Sent by Hyperion to whisk the Vault Hunters away to new and exciting opportunities on planets like Eden 6, Marcus instead finds himself directly in INAC's sights. The assassination bot swiftly takes him out, though Marcus ultimately survives the encounter and makes it clear that his Robolution isn't stopping here. The problem for INAC is that he was never designed for direct combat. So, to face the Hunters head-on, he deploys his secret weapon, the colossal Mega Interplanetary Ninja Assassin Claptrap, or MINAC. After wearing down its Claptrap reinforcements and tearing the machine apart, the Hunters finally bring the giant to its knees. With his greatest weapon destroyed, INAC himself emerges for the final showdown, only to be immediately cut down in a pretty short fight. With the revolutionary leader obliterated, the Claptraps across Pandora are rebooted back to their harmless, bumbling state. And so, Pandora returns to its usual state of violent instability, while the Claptraps once again fade into the background, at least until one of them inevitably gets another bad idea. Meanwhile, Athena spends the next years wandering Pandora as a hired gun. 4 years after the opening of the Vault on Pandora, she receives a job offer from a low-level Hyperion programmer named Jack. Athena accepts the job, hunting for a vault on the planet's moon, Elpis. Athena is joined by Claptrap as well as 3 others: Wilhelm, a cybernetically enhanced mercenary; Nisha, a bandit-hunting gunslinger; Aurelia, Baroness and heiress to the Hammerlock family fortune; and later, Timothy Lawrence, one of Handsome Jack's body doubles. This new group of Vault Hunters board a ship and head to the Helios space station, Hyperion's orbital main base of operations. On the way, however, the group is attacked by the Lost Legion, a military group under the Dahl Corporation, who go on to siege the Helios station. The Vault Hunters crash land on Helios and dodge their way through the ongoing battle to follow a Claptrap unit to Jack. Unfortunately, the Claptrap doesn't last long, but the Vault Hunters are contacted by the cocky programmer himself. They find Jack under fire from Dahl forces and rescue him from his attackers. They try to activate the base's defense systems, but are blocked by an unknown signal from Elpis. Forced to evacuate, the Vault Hunters follow Jack to the escape ships as the Lost Legion's leader, Colonel Tungstina Zarpedon, announces their occupation of the Helios space station over the PA system. As they reach the ships, however, Zarpedon appears in the flesh, donning a power suit with weapons she's able to use to destroy the group's means of escape. Zarpedon recognizes Jack, who takes aim and fires at her. Suddenly, an unknown alien entity arrives and stops Jack's bullets in air to protect the Colonel. Jack and the Vault Hunters are able to duck away from Zarpedon and her mysterious bodyguard, and the programmer is contacted by Harold Tassiter, CEO of Hyperion. Jack hides the seriousness of the situation from Tassiter, who reminds Jack that he's only there to observe Pandora. Jack figures out a new way for the group to reach Elpis via a moonshot, but is forced to stay behind to pilot it. Athena and the other 3 Vault Hunters then load into a cargo container before Jack fires it off toward Concordia, the largest town on Elpis, for them to begin their search for the jamming signal blocking Helios's defenses. As the cargo container comes crashing down on Elpis, a local junk dealer named Janie Springs spots it and meets with the Vault Hunters, helping them survive the moon's atmosphere so they can safely reach Concordia. Once they reach the town, Jack contacts the Vault Hunters and has them seek out an ex-Hyperion employee named Huckster, who runs the town. Huckster, the Mariff of the town, an extremely clever portmanteau of sheriff and mayor, refuses to meet with them, however, so Jack has the hunters go to the nearby bar instead. There, Athena finds some familiar faces amongst the patrons, none other than former Vault Hunters and current romantic couple, Lilith and Roland. The pair refuse to help the new group of Vault Hunters, however, as they're simply there on vacation. The Vault Hunters instead meet with the bar's owner, who turns out to be none other than Pandora's greatest showwoman, Mad Moxxi. Moxxi helps the Hunters triangulate the jamming signal's origin, a long-abandoned Dahl communications facility. Unfortunately, as the Hunters attempt to leave Concordia to find the facility, the Mariff locks down all of the exits. Looking for a hidden way out, the Vault Hunters find Moxxi's secret workshop, walking in on her to find her out of character, and working as a mechanic, much like her son. Moxxi agrees to help them out of Concordia through a secret exit, in exchange for their secrecy about her dual personality. As they exit the city, however, the Vault Hunters look to see Helios, still under Colonel Zarpedon's control, firing its massive laser, the Eye of Helios, directly at Elpis. Luckily, the Hunters are able to reach the Dahlcomm's facility and shut down the jammer's signal, bringing back Hyperion's security on Helios. However, they are soon surprised when the Mariff calls to find out what happened at the facility, revealing himself to have been working with Zarpedon all along. With Helios's automated security and travel systems back online, Jack is able to meet with the Vault Hunters in Concordia. With Moxxi's help, the Hunters are able to accompany Jack to the Mariff's office to finally confront him. When the Mariff tries to kill Jack, the programmer is forced to pull his own weapon and return fire, taking out the Mariff and securing the city. Jack then comes up with a new plan to take the fight to Helios, amassing a robot army by equipping combat chassis with a top-of-the-line military AI. The Hunters then meet with Janie Springs in search of such an AI, who sends them to meet with Davis Pickle, a young thief who agrees to help them steal one from the ex-Dahl Drakensberg warship. There, the ship's second-in-command, known as the Skipper, assists them as they fight through the warship's defenses, as well as their ship's current leader, a former Dahl AI technician known as the Bazin. With the obstacles out of their way, the Hunters find the ship's AI core, revealed to be the Skipper herself. They then take the AI, who renames herself Felicity, before receiving a call from Roland, who's agreed to help them secure robot bodies at the abandoned Dahl Titan robot production plant. The Vault Hunters then make their way to the factory, where they meet a Hyperion scientist named Gladstone Katoa, who coincidentally has been working on a constructor robot that can digistruct an almost infinite supply of other bots, perfect for creating a robot army. Unfortunately, Felicity isn't too keen on the idea of being uploaded into the constructor bot, so as soon as she's uploaded into its prototype body, she goes rampant and turns on the Hunters. They then disable the robot by force, before Felicity's personality is erased, and the constructor bot immediately begins to pump out robots at Jack's command. The Vault Hunters then regroup with Jack, Moxxi, Lilith, and Roland back at the bar, with the two former Vault Hunters agreeing to head up to Helios with Jack and the current ones as support. With the jamming signal down and the robot army acquired, the only thing left in their way is the Eye of Helios laser. The Hunters fast travel back to the Helios station, but find the path to the laser still locked down. They meet Jack in his office, where they all suddenly pick up a distress call from Gladstone, who's currently under fire in the Research and Development Department. Hoping Gladstone can help hack the security doors open, the Vault Hunters head to R&D to rescue him. They successfully rescue Gladstone as well as 3 other scientists, and they begin working on disabling the security system. As Jack wonders how Zarpedon could still have control of security, Gladstone posits that perhaps the Marif wasn't her only mole. The Vault Hunters then regroup with Jack, Lilith, and Roland in Jack's office, and the Hunters give Jack a cloaking device from one of the scientists they rescued in R&D. As soon as the scientists get the path to the Eye of Helios open, however, Jack opens an airlock and jettisons them out into space, reasoning that one of them could have been working with Zarpedon, in a cruel act of chaotic paranoia. Moxxi then calls in to assist in shutting down the Eye of Helios, sending Roland and Lilith to the station's reactor while having Jack and the Hunters go to the Eye itself. Unfortunately, when they arrive in its control room, they find the interfaces offline, forcing them to go down to the laser core to shut it down manually. On their way, however, the group is ambushed by Colonel T. Zarpedon in her power suit, prompting a final battle with the leader of the Lost Legion. Or so it seems. As soon as they take down the power suit, Zarpedon emerges, glowing purple and empowered by her previous exposure to Iridian artifacts. The Hunters then defeat Zarpedon in battle, and in its wake, Jack questions her on the location of the vault on Elpis. Zarpedon claims that she's seen what's inside the vault, warning Jack to stay away, lest he trigger a horrible chain of events. Jack is simply jealous that he didn't get to open the vault himself, shooting Zarpedon to put her out of her misery. The group then continues to the laser core, where Jack reveals that the Eye of Helios is literally an eye. As it turns out, after the massive destroyer was released from the vault and subsequently killed on Pandora, Jack retrieved its eye and used it to power the laser on Helios, explaining the weapon's immense power. The group then shut down the eye and returned to the control room, where Moxxi, Lilith, and Roland reveal that they had been secretly working against Jack, whose own hunger for power has grown too dangerous to ignore. Moxxi sabotages the Eye's energy systems, overloading them and destroying the Eye of the Destroyer, much to Jack's dismay. Jack is then left with no choice but to race the others to the vault, enlisting the help of Athena and the rest of his new Vault Hunters. As they reach it, Jack receives another call from Tacitor, informing him that the board has approved his firing from Hyperion. Regardless, the Vault Hunters fight through the final Lost Legion defenses waiting for them to reach Elisir, the core of the Elpis moon. Once the coast is clear, the group reaches the entrance to the Vault of the Sentinel, which they enter to quickly meet its namesake, the Iridian-made Guardian of the Vault. After a vicious, multi-phase battle with the Sentinel, the Vault Hunters defeat the massive Guardian, bringing it down and clearing the way for Jack to finally enter the vault. Inside the vault, however, Jack finds the only treasure waiting is a strange Iridian artifact, a small glowing icon floating in air. At first, he scoffs at the sight, disappointed after everything they had gone through. However, when he reaches out to touch it, the icon reacts, lifting him into the air and materializing a throne beneath him. As Jack takes his throne, visions of the Vault of the Warrior flash before his eyes, and he's overwhelmed by the true scope of the Iridian's power. Laughing maniacally, Jack declares that he finally understands everything. Before he can revel in his discovery, however, Lilith suddenly teleports in. Greeting with, "Hello, handsome," she punches the icon into his face, searing a vault symbol into his skin and burning his left eye blind. Lilith then leaves just as quickly as she arrived. Screaming in agony, Jack rises from the ground, his face scarred and twisted, as he swears vengeance on Lilith and the other Vault Hunters. Fueled by his pain and rage, Jack commands Athena and the others to find him a doctor. Then, with his vision turned toward the future, he lays out his new plan: to wipe the bandits of Pandora from existence and awaken the monster he now knows is hidden beneath the planet, the Warrior. Sitting back on his throne, Jack imagines the destruction to come, promising that the planet will burn, the bandits will scream, and all will fall before his wrath. Sometime later, we find the new CEO of Hyperion sitting in Harold Tacitur's old seat. A man donning a synthetic mask to hide his scars, now going by the name Handsome Jack. Not long after taking over Hyperion, Handsome Jack learns of a powerful program hidden away by his predecessor, Tacitur, the H-Source. Containing prototypes, access codes, and corporate secrets, the program would give Jack unrivaled control over Hyperion. The problem is that Tacitur buried it inside of an experimental Claptrap unit, and the only way to retrieve it is by diving directly into its mind. Jack enlists his trusty Vault Hunters for the job, digitizing them and sending them into a virtual simulation of Claptrap's consciousness. Inside, the Hunters encounter corrupted memories, unstable subroutines, and distorted recreations of people from Claptrap's past. Here, they meet 5H4D0WTP, or Shadow Trap, a program tied to Claptrap since his creation. Pretending to be an ally, Shadow Trap guides the Vault Hunters deeper into the simulation, pushing them to obtain an override key that will allow them access to the H-Source. Along the way, the Hunters recover personifications of Claptrap's own hope and self-esteem, while uncovering a hidden memory of his birth that reveals Shadow Trap briefly took control of him before being suppressed. Once the override key is secured, Shadow Trap's true intentions are revealed. He never planned to hand over the H-Source, and instead uses it to force his way deeper into Claptrap's subconscious. The Vault Hunters pursue him, battling through corrupted environments until finally facing Shadow Trap directly. He transforms into a massive battle form called Eclipse, and then into the construct Eos, forcing the Hunters through a brutal, multi-phase fight. In the end, the Hunters manage to destroy him and recover the H-Source. When the program is returned, Handsome Jack immediately uses it to seize full control of Hyperion's systems. With its power, he orders the termination of every Claptrap unit, calling them worthless and shutting down the line completely. The experimental Claptrap himself is shot and tossed into a pile of dismantled units in Windshear Waste. Even then, Shadow Trap manages to survive once more, slipping back into Claptrap's code and rebooting him. As Pandoran creatures begin picking through the wreckage, they're driven off by a hunter named Sir Alistair Hammerlock, brother of one of Jack's Vault Hunters, Lady Aurelia, who stumbles upon the broken Claptrap unit. Deciding to repair it, Hammerlock inadvertently ensures that Claptrap will live to annoy Jack another day. Meanwhile, Athena's legend of her time with Handsome Jack and the other Vault Hunters spreads across Pandora. While Athena recounts her story of Jack's rise and fall, her audience includes two would-be Vault Hunters, Axton, the Commando, and Gage, the Mechromancer. Rather than hanging on the finer details, the pair constantly interrupt her story, asking for more action and spectacle. To satisfy them, Athena and the other Vault Hunters demonstrate her battles inside the Holodome, a combat simulator designed to recreate key moments from her fight against the Lost Legion and beyond. The Vault Hunters are thrown into wave after wave of enemies, reliving Athena's encounters against bandits, soldiers, and mechanized threats. As the waves intensify, Axton and Gage provide running commentary, treating the ordeal more like entertainment than a history lesson. Athena pushes back, continuing her account while dispatching the enemies that stand before her, determined to ensure that the truth of what happened isn't lost among the constant interruptions. By surviving the Holodome's challenges, the Hunters prove their strength once again, while Athena's tale continues to build the legend of Handsome Jack, whose looming shadow grows ever larger with each retelling. The next year, now 5 years since the vault's opening on Pandora, we find a new group of vault hunters, including Axton and Gage, as well as another siren named Maya, a hulking gunzerker named Salvador, the most effective assassin in the galaxy known only as Zero, and Krieg, a volatile psycho with devastating melee power. These new hunters take on a job from Handsome Jack searching for the Vault of the Warrior. Or so it would seem. As it turns out, the job offer was simply a ruse to draw out any competition Jack may have searching for the vault himself. The train's security quickly turns against the vault hunters, forcing them to test their newfound team dynamic. Luckily, they're able to survive the assault, but are soon bamboozled by another one of Handsome Jack's traps, a dummy decoy of himself strapped with explosives. When the bombs detonate, the train is blown off the tracks, leaving the new team of vault hunters stranded in the freezing wind shear waste. Luckily, the group are soon discovered by the very same Claptrap unit that was similarly ditched there by Jack and subsequently repaired by Sir Hammerlock. Claptrap gets his new friends equipped with an Echo unit, and the Guardian Angel once again contacts them, urging them to be the new heroes that Pandora now needs thanks to Handsome Jack's tyranny. The Guardian Angel further encourages them to work with Claptrap to get to the city of Sanctuary, the last bastion of the resistance against Jack. Despite warnings from Handsome Jack himself, the Vault Hunters help Claptrap repair himself after an attack from Pandoran wildlife, meeting Sir Hammerlock on the way. Fighting through bandits Boom Boom and Captain Flint, the hunters help Claptrap reach his boat, which they then use to reach the city of Sanctuary, with some help from Scooter to catch a ride on the way. Unfortunately, before they're allowed to enter the city's gates, the Vault Hunters are forced to assist Roland and his new group forged from the ashes of the Crimson Lance, the Crimson Raiders, by retrieving a stolen power core to restore Sanctuary's defenses. Finally, in the city of Sanctuary, the hunters learn that Roland has gone missing on his current mission, before meeting Scooter in the flesh. They proceed to help Scooter initiate Roland's Plan B, launching Sanctuary into the sky to be a floating fortress free of Hyperion threat. Unfortunately, the plan fails, forcing the Vault Hunters to find Roland first. They're summoned by a bandit leader known as the Firehawk, who they learn to be Lilith once they meet in person. They assist Lilith, whose siren abilities have grown more powerful thanks to the Iridium that was released once the vault was opened. Later, the hunters meet Ellie, Mad Moxxi's daughter, Scooter's sister, and fellow mechanic. With her help, the hunters are able to procure a vehicle to infiltrate the Bloodshot bandit camp to rescue Roland. During their escape, however, Roland is captured once again, this time by Hyperion. Taking out their machinery, the Vault Hunters finally ensure Roland's safety and return to Sanctuary. There, Roland reveals that during his mission, he learned that Handsome Jack doesn't intend on opening a vault. He means to control it. Roland tells Lilith and the Vault Hunters about the Warrior, devising a plan to take control of it before Jack can. To do so, however, they need to steal the vault key that's already in Handsome Jack's possession, after he literally beat it out of Tannis's hands. In order to find it, Roland sends the Vault Hunters to meet his spy, who they soon learn is none other than Mordecai, the sniper who helped open the first vault, along with his trusty companion, Bloodwing. According to Mordecai's intel, a Hyperion train is traveling nearby, and hoping it contains the vault key, the hunters make their way towards it. On their way, the group soon meets Tiny Tina, a 13-year-old demolitions expert with an equally explosive personality. Owing Roland a favor, Tina lends her skills in hijacking the Hyperion train. Using her explosives, the Vault Hunters derail the train, but find that it was simply a trap. Wilhelm, the cybernetically enhanced Vault Hunter still working under Handsome Jack, emerges from the train and attacks. While Roland and Lilith warn the new Vault Hunters about Wilhelm's power, the Guardian Angel encourages them to fight. While he puts up a tough fight, the Vault Hunters are able to kill Wilhelm, and the Guardian Angel points out an even stronger power core that he dropped. The Hunters take the new power core back to Sanctuary, where they insert it into the shield generator to power up the city's defenses. Unfortunately, as soon as they do, Handsome Jack calls with a massive revelation. The Guardian Angel had been secretly working for him from the very start. The Power Core was simply an interface for her to gain control of Sanctuary's defense systems, and she immediately shuts down the shields. As Helios begins to fire down on Sanctuary, the Vault Hunters help Scooter and Lilith get the city into the air. Lilith uses her siren powers to teleport the city away, accidentally teleporting the Vault Hunters away from the group as Sanctuary begins to lift. They then watch as Lilith's abilities make the city vanish before their very eyes. As the Vault Hunters leave to search for Sanctuary's new location, the Guardian Angel surprisingly contacts them once again, claiming that she'll explain everything as soon as they get to the fridge, where she believes Lilith may have taken the city. On the way, the Angel admits to her part in Jack's plan, including tricking the original Vault Hunters to open the vault on Pandora so he could obtain the iridium inside. However, she claims to be sick of manipulating people on his behalf, informing the Hunters that the vault key is currently with her. The Guardian Angel then helps the Vault Hunters use Hyperion tech to get back to the now floating city of Sanctuary. After reuniting with Roland and Lilith, the Guardian Angel again contacts them and insists on her change of heart. She tells them that Handsome Jack is trying to skip the 200-year recharge period of the vault key by using her power to charge it. She tasks the Vault Hunters with finding her AI core, which will in turn lead them to the vault key. Before signing off, the Guardian Angel asks for one more favor. Whatever they do, don't let Lilith into her chamber. In order to get past the Hyperion defenses, the Hunters need an upgraded Claptrap. Luckily, Mordecai has just the data required on Bloodwing's collar. Not so luckily, Bloodwing was captured by Hyperion. The Vault Hunters infiltrate the Wildlife Exploitation Preserve and reach Bloodwing, but unfortunately find that Jack had already experimented on her with iridium, transforming her into a hostile elemental monster. Despite Mordecai's cries, the Hunters are forced to take Bloodwing down. Luckily, they're able to take her down non-lethally, and the Hunters retrieve the chip from her collar. Not so luckily, Jack reveals his final contingency as he activates a bomb in Bloodwing's skull, killing her instantly, much to Mordecai's horror. The Hunters then install the upgrade in Claptrap and return to Sanctuary to regroup with Lilith, Roland, and the mourning Mordecai. Before their final strike on Hyperion, Roland sends the Vault Hunters with a note to deliver to a bandit leader known as the Slab King. This leader, as it turns out, is actually the final member of the original group of Vault Hunters, Brick. He agrees to help, fighting alongside the new Hunters to get through Hyperion defenses on their way back to Sanctuary. There, the combined group of original and new Vault Hunters are called by the Guardian Angel once again. She tells them that in order to breach the final door to her chambers, they'll need to disguise themselves as Handsome Jack, passing a bioscan and a spoken word lock. In the Hyperion city of Opportunity, the Vault Hunters find one of the body doubles employed by Jack to confuse assassins, and proceed to kill him in order to obtain Jack's biodata. They then collect samples of Jack's voice to create a voice modulator to imitate his speech. Regrouping back in Sanctuary one last time, Roland lays out the final plan to his fellow Vault Hunters. Lilith and Mordecai will stay behind to protect the city, while Brick provides air support for Roland as he climbs up to Angel's core control room from the cliff face. Meanwhile, the new Vault Hunters join Claptrap to get past the shields to fight through an onslaught of opposition. After an intense battle against the Bunker, Jack's greatest defense bot, the Hunters are finally able to access the doors to control Core Angel. There, they're required to input the spoken password, and the Guardian Angel reveals the phrase to them, which they speak in Jack's voice. I love you. The doors then open, and the Hunters take an elevator down to the core, where it's revealed that the Guardian Angel was never an AI. She was very much real, and very much a siren. Jack had been pumping her full of iridium for years, using her to charge the vault key. Angel asks the hunters to destroy the iridium injectors keeping her alive to end her life of servitude. Handsome Jack immediately tries to stop them, telling them to get away from his daughter, revealing the final secret behind Angel's identity. Despite Jack's best defenses and pleas to his daughter, Roland and the hunters are able to destroy 2 of the 3 iridium injectors before Lilith phases in, defying Roland's orders to stay behind. Now with Lilith's help as well, the group are able to destroy the last injector. Angel then falls to the floor, thanking her friends for finally bringing her suffering to an end. In her final breath, Angel tells her father that he's an asshole, before falling lifeless. Roland then sends Lilith with the vault key to return it to Tanis, but as he plans out their next move, he's suddenly interrupted by the sound of a gunshot, as a bullet pierces his chest. Roland falls dead instantly, as his shooter is revealed to be Handsome Jack, enraged and vengeful for his daughter's death. A broken-hearted Lilith tries to attack Jack, but he incapacitates her with an iridium-powered collar, taking her and intending to use her siren abilities to charge the vault key now that he's lost Angel. Fortunately, Lilith is able to temporarily resist his restraint and teleport the Vault Hunters back to Sanctuary. There, they meet back up with Mordecai and work with him to discover the Vault's location, in Heroes Pass. Claptrap then leads the Vault Hunters in their final assault on Hyperion's mining operations to reach the Vault's entrance. Brick and Mordecai arrive via a stolen Hyperion airship to assist, and the Vault Hunters soon find Handsome Jack in the flesh, forcing Lilith to charge the key. Jack barely gives the Vault Hunters enough time for a proper introduction before he gets to avenging his daughter's death. A battle with the technologically enhanced programmer then ensues, and while the Vault Hunters are able to best Jack in combat, he nonetheless retrieves the now fully charged vault key and uses it. The vault then opens, and the warrior arrives. Handsome Jack proudly commands the massive, ancient beast to kill the Vault Hunters, prompting a final, grueling battle. Eventually, the Vault Hunters are able to repeat history, bringing down the massive biological superweapon and killing Handsome Jack's plans along with the creature. In the wake of the battle, a dying Handsome Jack is left in disbelief. At this point, the Vault Hunters can deliver the final bullet to Jack or allow Lilith to do it as revenge for Roland's killing. Either way, Handsome Jack's reign comes to a bloody, tragic close. Lilith then prepares to destroy the vault key, just as Brick and Mordecai catch up to them. Somehow, instead of breaking it, she activates a map of the galaxy, highlighting multiple locations that the group quickly recognize as more vaults. Lilith simply proclaims that there ain't no rest for the wicked, as the remaining Vault Hunters realize that their work is far from over. After the dust settles in Sanctuary, the Vault Hunters answer a call from Oasis, a resort town with no water and one overeager greeter, a lonely man named Shade. He points them towards the legend of Captain Blade's treasure and introduces its most determined hunter, Captain Scarlett. She proposes a partnership to reassemble Blade's broken compass, the only thing that points to the stash. The hunters scour the desert, wresting a piece from the Pirate Lord Sandman at Hater's Folly, prying another out of the ship graveyard in the rust yards with help from Scarlett's unsettling fan Herbert, and recovering the rest from Scarlett herself. With the compass complete, its location is revealed at the Magnus Lighthouse, and that's Scarlett's cue to betray the Vault Hunters and sprint for the prize herself. The trail ends at the X, which wakes a colossal leviathan that swallows everyone whole. Inside the beast, Scarlett makes her last play, unleashing her pet Roscoe, but the Vault Hunters cut through, escape, and slay the leviathan in the sands above. With the Guardian dead, Blade's treasure room opens. Scarlett slips away empty-handed, the Vault Hunters leave Oasis richer, and Shade remains desperate for company. Elsewhere, Dr. Patricia Tanis discovers another vault sitting in the heart of a crater, and Mr. Torgue High Five Flexington turns it into a pay-per-view tournament at the Badass Crater of Badassitude. Current champion Piston tries to rig the bracket by sabotaging the Vault Hunters' attempt, but Torgue quietly backs their comeback and sends them to get a sponsor. That sponsor is Mad Moxxi, who, along with their new trainer, Tiny Tina, helps them climb the ranks. They incinerate Pyro Pete, outbrawl Motor Mama, and chase the bratty Flyboy to the Forge, only for Piston to blow Flyboy up himself from a blimp. The Vault Hunters return fire, drop the blimp, and meet Piston in the arena alongside his centerpiece, the flame-throwing Badassosaurus. They scrap the dinosaur tank, beat Piston fair and square, and the crater's vault finally responds, opened not by an ancient horror, but by a loot explosion that showers the new champs. Torgue screams approval, and the Vault Hunters leave with trophies and tinnitus. Sometime later, Sir Hammerlock invites the Vault Hunters to the continent of Agris for a proper hunt. Instead, they stumble into Professor Nakayama, a Hyperion scientist so obsessed with Handsome Jack that he's been mutating the local wildlife and riling up the island's locals in an attempt to carry on Jack's legacy. The hunters then dismantle labs and destroy samples of Jack's DNA that Nakayama plans to use to clone the late CEO, before facing the Doctor's masterpiece, Jackenstein, an Iridian-charged Pandora wildlife creature spliced with Jack's DNA. They tear it down and storm Nakayama's base aboard the crashed HMS Terminus. In a final showdown, the professor trips down the stairs and snaps his own neck before the fight can even start. A pathetically fitting end to his equally pathetic plan. Hammerlock snags a few trophies, Agris calms, and the crew heads out. Among Nakayama's notes, though, are hints of a digital recreation of Handsome Jack, hinting that perhaps the world hasn't seen the last of him. Back in Sanctuary, Tiny Tina runs a Bunkers and Badasses tabletop role-playing game session for Brick, Mordecai, and Lilith to lift their spirits after Roland's death. Inside Tina's campaign, the Vault Hunters defend Flame Rock Refuge, clash with the Handsome Sorcerer, and follow a mysterious White Knight, who's revealed, painfully, as Tina's way of keeping Roland in the story, as she refuses to accept his death. Tina riffs, rewrites, and retcons, with cameos from the likes of Claptrap, Moxxi, and Mr. Torgue, until the party storms Dragon Keep. They're able to defeat the Sorcerer's dragon, facing the Handsome One directly. After a fierce battle, the party defeats the Sorcerer, with some help from Bloodwing. Afterwards, they free the realm's queen, Handsome Jack's diamond pony, Butt Stallion naturally, and bring light back to the land. Outside the story, Lilith gently speaks the truth, and Tina finally admits that she knows that Roland is gone. As the campaign comes to a close, Maya arrives with good news. A spy they caught has provided access to the Hyperion's moon base, Helios. The group then erects statues of Bloodwing and Roland to honor their sacrifices, and Tiny Tina hugs them goodbye. This isn't Tiny Tina's only Bunkers and Badasses campaign, however. Sometime later, Tina takes up her Bunker Master mantle once again, this time roping in a new party of players. Valentine, a dashing but somewhat washed-up space pirate, his rule-obsessed robot companion Fret, and a newbie who's playing their first campaign, all eager for some high fantasy Pandoran adventure. Together, this new party dive into Tina's latest odyssey in the Wonderlands. The quest kicks off with the group facing off against the evil Dragon Lord, a skeletal necromancer, just moments away from defeating him when he pulls a last-second trick. The Dragon Lord summons an undead horde to delay his demise, only to be thwarted by the sudden arrival of Her Majesty Queen Butt Stallion, brandishing the legendary Sword of Souls. With one mighty magical blast, Butt Stallion seals the Dragon Lord away for centuries in an arcane prison, saving the day, at least for now. With the exposition out of the way, Tina then starts the campaign's main story, officially anointing the newbie as the Fate Maker, the fated hero of her Wonderlands narrative. The Fate Maker's journey begins in the peaceful Snoring Valley, but takes a turn when the party are confronted by skeleton soldiers, led by Ribula, who aims to resurrect the Dragon Lord. While the party defeats Ribula, the Dragon Lord is nonetheless released from his imprisonment before escaping. Hoping to warn Queen Buttstallion of the Dragon Lord's escape, the party head to the capital of Brighthoof. Unfortunately, they arrive too late, as they find it already under siege by the Dragon Lord's skeletal army. Fighting alongside Paladin Mike, the head of the Queen's Diamond Guard, the party beats back the horde and saves the town. In the wake of the battle, Queen Buttstallion herself arrives to personally task the Fatemaker with retrieving the Sword of Souls from the Shattergrave Barrow. After fighting and defeating the nagging spirit of the Zomboss, Queen Buttstallion reveals the Sword of Souls, which the Fatemaker obtains, using it to capture the soul of the Zomboss. The Fatemaker then takes the Sword of Souls back to Brighthoof, placing it into a pedestal on the city's square fountain. Soul energy releases from the sword, repairing all of the damage done by the skeleton army. Paladin Mike then informs the Fatemaker that the Queen wishes to knight them for their actions. They return to the city square, but the celebration is cut short as the Dragon Lord arrives and takes the Sword of Souls, quickly wielding it to behead Queen Buttstallion, killing her instantly. Taking the Queen's head and the Sword of Souls with him, the Dragon Lord vanishes just as quickly as he appeared. The Fatemaker then rushes off to search for him, spotting his citadel, the Pyramid, get it, across the ocean, awakening with his return. Paladin Mike fears that with the sword, the Dragon Lord will be able to take the soul energy of every living being in the Wonderlands, prompting the Fatemaker and their party to begin their journey across the sea to reach the Pyramid. They commandeer a ship, but the dockmaster informs them that in order to cross the Cursed Sea, they'll need to get their vessel blessed by a bard. The party fight through Tina's encounters to reach the Weep Wild Dankness, where they meet the bard, Mr. Torgue. The party take Torgue back to their ship, fighting the Banshee on the way and freeing the Fairy Punchfather, Brick. At the docks, Mr. Torgue leads a jam session to free them of their bad vibes. Tiny Tina forces Valentine and Fret to come to terms with their differing playstyles, with Valentine wanting to break the rules while Fret strictly follows them. With their understanding and teamwork stronger than ever, Torgue gets overpowered by the positive vibes. He accidentally summons a magic missile, which launches towards the waters and blows up the ocean. The group then continues on foot through the dried, but still slightly damp crater that used to be the ocean. On their way, they assist a friendly skeleton pirate named Bones Threewood reassemble his crew and find his ship, the Marley Maiden. They then fight the mighty Captain Chartreuse LeChance, who holds a grudge against Bones for turning them all undead, eventually defeating him in battle. Chartreuse then gives Bones another LeChance, and the Fatemaker is able to continue their quest. They then come across Kasara, a priestess of the hostile Coiled race, who is seemingly friendly and allows them passage through the drowned abyss. When they enter the Temple of Sacrifice, however, the party fully expects Kasara to double-cross them. They find her, and she doesn't, instead offering to join the party to help them. Unfortunately, she speaks a forbidden word, forcing Tina to cause Kasara to spontaneously combust. After fighting through the massive Dryle, I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm sorry, guys. The party meet the Wastard, a ghost whose body they proceed to help recover. Unfortunately, the Dragon Lord takes control of the Wastard's body, forcing them into a battle to exorcise him from it. In the wake of the battle, the Wastard finally resurrects into his own body, and repays the favor by giving them the ability to dispel the Dragon Lord's protective hexes, at the cost of part of their souls. The party soon reach Osagol Necropolis, meeting a friendly survivor named the Elder, who leads them to the Hall of Heroes, which they must pass through to reach the Pyramid. As Tiny Tina sends them through fatal obstacle courses, the Dragon Lord begins to speak directly to the Fatemaker, mentioning other Fatemakers that came before them, hinting that they're just playthings for Tina to use and dispose of. When the party reaches the Hall of Heroes, they're met with a living nightmare. Literally. The Nightmare then appears, a mechanical abomination with Queen Buttstallion's head affixed on top. After a brutal fight, the Fatemaker is able to defeat the abomination. As Tina reminds the players that the nightmare was the Dragon Lord's doing, he finally has enough. The Dragon Lord then pulls the Fate Maker into a vision, revealing the truth behind his creation. As it turns out, he was originally the Dragon Knight, a character created by Tiny Tina during her very first game of Bunkers and Badasses, where she was taught to play by her old friend Roland. However, during the game, Tina's lack of forethought caused her to make the Dragon Knight unleash the full power of the Sword of Souls, turning him into the evil Dragon Lord. Tina, frustrated, simply quit the game and refused to play again unless she could be the bunker master to ensure the heroes would win. The Dragon Lord then rejects Masters, Dice, and Destiny, insisting that he isn't evil, just written that way by Tina. He then dares the Fate Maker to prove that choice still exists, retreating to the pyramid to await their final battle. The party then climb to his citadel, fighting through the defenses to eventually reach the Dragon Lord's Tank of Souls. They break it open, unleashing all of the souls that he had captive, including that of his long-lost love, Bernadette, whom he planned to resurrect the whole time. What a twist! However, the Dragon Lord rejects this, pointing out that he doesn't even know a Bernadette, further exemplifying Tiny Tina's puppet mastering. The Dragon Lord collects the unleashed souls into the sword, and awaits the hero to finish their journey. The final battle then commences atop the pyramid. The Dragon Lord makes his own entrance, free from Tina's control, and attempts to make the party roll new characters. After an epic duel, the Dragon Lord falls to his knees, lamenting his failed attempt to decide his own fate. He hands over the Sword of Souls, telling the Fate Maker to finish his quest. Tiny Tina once again encourages her hero to unleash the full power of the sword, egged on by Valentine and Fret. Instead, the Fate Maker decides to stop letting fate divide them, and instead, let it bring them together. They then use the power inside of the Sword of Souls not to strike down the Dragon Lord, but to instead revive the majestic Queen Butt Stallion. In an ending Tiny Tina couldn't even imagine, the party of Valentine, Fret, and the brand new player proved to be too strong for simply a one-shot. The Dragon Lord is stripped of his power and imprisoned, but allowed to remain in the story. The Fate Maker then returns to Brighthoof's Fountain Square, where they kneel before the revived Queen Butt Stallion, who finally knights them. As they celebrate with Paladin Mike and the townsfolk, the campaign comes to a close. But that's not all Bunker Master Tina has up her sleeve. Sometime later, Valentine and Fret rejoin at the table with Sir Hammerlock taking the Fate Maker's place, as Tiny Tina runs a new campaign in the Wonderlands. Before the game kicks off, Valentine learns that Tina's stories are a way for her to imagine she has friends her age, as Tina's searches for real ones in the Borderlands have thus far been fruitless. While Claptrap tries to join the party, they refuse, taking on Tiny Tina's new campaign, eventually reaching the town of Boomstone. There, the party meets Sheriff Mr. Torgue, who gives them a job to hunt down Hilly the Kid, a giant who's been wreaking havoc. Luckily, the group are able to find Hilly's digital diary to try to figure out his motives and next moves. Unfortunately, Tina casts Claptrap to play the role of this diary. After sending the party through several sugar-induced side quests, Tina introduces Ellie into the story, who gives the players a means of traversal with her Catch a Wyvern system. With no more of the good snacks left, Tina fast-forwards the plot to the encounter with Hilly the Kid. The group's attacks don't faze the giant until Mr. Torgue shows up to have a banjo battle, knocking Hilly down. The music comforts Hilly, who admits that he doesn't understand why nobody will listen to him, or why they can't just let him be a kid. It becomes clear that Tina's expressing her own feelings through the story. The players then comfort Tina, and she slyly uses the distraction to allow Hilly the Kid to surprise attack the party in-game. The party retreats, and the group calls it a day. Later that night, Valentine and Fret sneak into Tiny Tina's room while she's asleep, carrying some dolls based on the characters in her Wonderlands. Valentine whispers that just because she doesn't have anyone around her own age, that doesn't mean she doesn't have people who still love to be her friends. As they leave, Tina opens her eyes to reveal that she was only pretending to sleep, snuggling her new presence and quietly telling her friends that she loves them too. Sometime later, aboard Hyperion's Helios space station, we find Rhys Strongfork, an employee working his way up the ranks alongside his best friend Vaughn. Rhys, who dreams of being the next handsome Jack, walks towards his boss's office to receive a hard-earned promotion. As he enters, however, Rhys is shocked to instead find Hugo Vasquez, his longtime rival. The corpse of Rhys's former boss then floats by the window out to space, revealing that Hugo has taken his position, much to Rhys's dismay. Hugo tells him not to worry, however, as his promotion is still coming. Their conversation is quickly cut short when Vasquez receives a call regarding the purchase of a vault key, which Rhys is able to overhear thanks to his Echo Eye implant. After the call wraps up, Vasquez then announces Rhys's promotion to Assistant Vice Janitor. Rhys exits the disappointing meeting to inform Vaughn and their friend and fellow coworker, Yvette, of his new position. He further reveals Vasquez's plan to buy the vault key, and the group decide to beat him to the punch by purchasing it first. Thankfully, Vaughn is an accountant and is able to move around $10 million to make the deal. Rhys then commandeers a car Vasquez ordered for himself to drive him and Vaughn to Prosperity Junction on Pandora. Meanwhile, in the Pandoran city of Hollow Point, two sisters named Fiona and Sasha steal and smuggle to get by. Along with their mentor and father figure Felix, the pair are secretly behind the vault key sale. As it turns out, the vault key is a forgery crafted by Felix, and they intend on selling it to Hyperion through their associate, a fence named August, who Sasha is also dating. Fiona poses as an archaeologist named Lydia Strauss during a meeting with August, claiming to have discovered the vault key on the planet Eden 6. After Fiona puts on a convincing performance, August agrees to conduct the deal, allowing Sasha to hold on to the key. After August leaves with Sasha, Felix and Fiona secretly follow in their caravan. In Prosperity Junction, Rhys and Vaughn attempt to find their seller, but unfortunately run into some anti-Hyperion bandits instead. Yvette provides remote support, sending in a Hyperion loader bot to provide combat assistance by taking out the opposition. Unfortunately, one of the bandits spots the briefcase of money and grabs it, stealing Vasquez's car and driving off. Unfortunately, the case is handcuffed to Vaughn, and he gets dragged along. Rhys chases the car, commanding Loaderbot to retrieve it. He's then stopped by some bandits, whom he fights with a stun baton provided by Yvette. Rhys finds Loaderbot with the car, and has him put it down, rescuing Vaughn. Loaderbot then helps them reach the World of Curiosities, before Rhys is given the option to tell Loaderbot to retreat or stick around to sacrifice himself fighting bandit reinforcements, only to be replaced by another Loaderbot later. Whatever the case, Rhys and a very shaken Vaughn continue into the World of Curiosities, finding it full of exhibits dedicated to Pandora. Amongst them, morbidly, are the corpses of its late inhabitants, including characters we've seen up to this point, such as Bandit Brother Boom, Lonely Oasis Dweller Shade, Siren-turned-zombie thing Commandant Steel, and Hyperion Professor Nakayama, who was obsessed with cloning Handsome Jack, if you recall. Rhys snags Nakayama's Hyperion badge, hoping it will come in handy later. When they then notice Shade's corpse goes missing, they're relieved to find out that he's not undead, just weird. Rhys informs him that they're there for the deal, and Shade takes them to meet with the seller, a man named August. August, who's there with Sasha, initially distrusts Rhys and Vaughn, as he was expecting to meet with Vasquez. However, when he shows the vault key and they show the cash, August proceeds with the transaction. Sasha then puts a stop to the deal instead, exclaiming that she's got a bad feeling. Rhys tries to reason with her, explaining that they showed up instead of Vaughn simply to screw him over. The idea of sticking it to a Hyperion stooge is enough for her, and Sasha changes her mind. Secretly, however, this was all just a ruse to give Fiona enough time to secretly plant an EMP device onto the vault key's container from inside of a nearby vent, just in case Rhys tries to scan it with his Echo Eye. However, with things just being too strange at this point, August cancels the deal outright. Rhys is given the option to blow his mind or break his heart, But either way, he simply begs August to reconsider the deal, which he does when he remembers it's for $10 million. As Rhys goes to scan the vault key, the still hidden Fiona activates the EMP, so he won't be able to detect it's a fake. Unfortunately, the shock causes him to drop the key, which shatters into pieces as it hits the floor. Before Rhys can even react to it being a fake, however, the meeting is literally crashed by a bandit leader named Bossa Nova, who's being followed by Zero, the assassin from the group of vault hunters who took down Handsome Jack. Zero presses Bossa Nova for the location of something he's looking for, but the bandit claims ignorance and takes the briefcase of money instead, driving off as Zero is distracted with other bandits. Felix then arrives, but winds up accidentally shot by August. Sasha grabs him, and Fiona joins them to escape to their caravan. There, they find Rhys and Vaughn trying to hotwire it to follow Bossa Nova. August, furious about being lied to, follows, firing his pistol, forcing Felix to drive off quickly. In the caravan, Rhys and Vaughn propose a shaky alliance with Felix, Sasha, and Fiona. They can follow the briefcase via a tracker chip in exchange for letting them live. Rhys calls Yvette to try to get her to track the money, but she informs him that his stunt has put all of their IDs on lockdown. With no other choice, Rhys remembers Nakayama's ID and decides to see if his security clearance is still active. Rhys then inserts it into his head and immediately passes out. In his unconsciousness, Rhys hears a familiar voice expressing his disappointment, asking if he thought he could follow in his footsteps. When Rhys awakens, he exits the caravan to find the rest of the group looking over a bandit stronghold and an abandoned Atlas warehouse. As they scope it out, Zero arrives and begins to take out bandits himself before running inside. The group find an alternate way in, and Felix stays behind with the caravan as he reminds Fiona and Sasha to not trust anyone. While Rhys devises an amazing plan to get inside, the others stroll over to a maintenance hatch and simply open it. Rhys and Sasha enter first, but Fiona and Vaughn are forced to quickly close the hatch as a bandit notices them. The bandit asks if the pair are drivers, and they bluff that they are. He then leads them to a choice of masks that they can buy to wear during a race that they're apparently doing now. The pair don their masks and are given a vehicle, learning on the way to the race that the prize for the upcoming competition is the Hyperion briefcase, which Vaughn reveals is holding a secret bomb tied to his DNA signature, so it's useless to whoever wins it anyway. Rhys and Sasha, meanwhile, follow the GPS tracker in the briefcase, eventually spotting some bandits carrying it up an elevator. The pair work together to take down a pair of other guards before Rhys hacks the lift controls while Sasha guilts him for his connection to Hyperion. Regardless, she's impressed by his Hyperion-made stun baton and asks him if she can borrow it, a decision that's left for him to make. Once Rhys gets the lift working, he and Sasha take it up as well, and Zero surprisingly joins them, saving them from some released skags. Zero then reveals that he's searching for something called a Gortys core, and the others agree to let him know if they come across it. Rhys, Sasha, and Zero then find themselves emerging onto the center of the track where a deadly race is about to begin. Zero shoots the case out of Bossa Nova's hands, and he announces an additional bounty on the assassin's head, adding to the spectacle at hand. As the mayhem begins, Rhys finally gets a call from Vasquez, who explains that while he knows what happened with the vault key, if Rhys brings back the money, he'll get his old job back. However, the deal comes with one condition: blaming the whole thing on Vaughn. Rhys refuses, so Hugo sweetens the deal by adding half of the money to the pot, leaving the final decision to take the deal up to Rhys. In one of the coolest sequences in a video game that I've ever experienced, the briefcase bounces between Rhys and Sasha fighting a skag with Zero's sword to a brutal death race involving Vaughn and Fiona. Ultimately, however, it winds up in Felix's hands, as he arrives in the caravan just in time to catch it while it's in the air. Fiona grabs onto the caravan and enters, initially excited by Felix's arrival. However, she immediately can tell that his demeanor has shifted. As Fiona gets closer to him, Felix grabs the case and pulls his pistol on her. The distraction causes Felix to crash the caravan, knocking Fiona down. While the vehicle is stuck, Felix grabs the briefcase and prepares to leave, reminding Fiona that he had told her to never trust anyone. Seeing it as a lesson to teach her, Felix leaves her behind, taking all of the money with him. At this point, Fiona has the decision to warn Felix about the bomb Vaughn informed her of within the case, causing him to escape after opening it, throwing it before the blast. Otherwise, she can shoot him, or simply allow him to open the case, telling him to choke on it as it explodes. Zero then kills the Bossa Nova once and for all, calling Mad Moxxi to inform her that the Gortys wasn't with him. Vaughn and Reese reunite, while Sasha refuses to talk to Fiona about Felix's betrayal. Another reunion occurs when Loaderbot discovers their location and arrives, landing hard on the track. The force from Loaderbot's landing causes the ground to shift, and Reese falls through a hole into an underground facility of some sort. There, he stumbles upon Atlas prototypes, catching the others' interests, who immediately jump down. Sasha finds a gun, Vaughn finds a watch, and Reese and Fiona find two strange pieces of metal that seem to fit together. As they go to leave, the two pieces are pulled together and connect mid-air. The Gortys project is then revealed, as the device projects a hologram of a map. The voice in Reese's head then returns, informing him that the Gortys project will lead them to a vault, before a projection of the voice's owner, Handsome Jack, appears behind Vaughn, reborn through Nakayama's AI awakening within Reese's Echo Eye implant. To the others, it appears as if Reese has just seen a ghost, as he goes completely silent and runs off. The Gortys core then falls to the ground, splitting in two once again. As the others try to pick it up, they're shocked, revealing that the two pieces are now genetically linked to those who first touched them, Reese and Fiona. After finding an Atlas computer locked by a retina scanner, Fiona removes the eye from the corpse of an Atlas military general. At least, she thinks it's a corpse. She later learns that his body is only suspended. No matter, she uses the eye on the computer to unlock a video message from Athena, recorded from the Atlas mining town of Old Haven, which Fiona figures would be the perfect place to hide more information on the Gortys project. Meanwhile, Reese speaks with the Handsome Jack AI away from the group, who's having trouble coming to terms with his new, non-corporeal form. Reese bumps his head, making Jack disappear, just as Helios starts firing moonshots towards them. Loaderbot then carries them back to the caravan, and the group drive off, with Reese using his Echo Eye to dodge the shots while Fiona fights off Pandoran wildlife. While Reese is able to maneuver the shots into destroying a massive creature, he and Vaughn are soon thrown from the caravan, separating them from the two sisters. Stranded in the desert, Reese starts to see Handsome Jack once again, and he's given the choice to confide in Vaughn about his new AI companion. Regardless, the trio soon spot a vehicle flying down from Helios, believing it to be piloted by Yvette. Unfortunately, Hugo Vasquez emerges from it instead, carrying a gun and seemingly prepared to use it. Hugo mentions the deal he offered, which was either taken by Reese, or if he refused it, by Vaughn, though he claims he only said what Vasquez wanted to hear in order to keep him off their backs. Either way, Hugo gives each of the pair a shovel and tells them to start digging their own graves. Luckily, the pair are rescued by Loaderbot, who carries them away to safety. In the air, the pair decide whether they should go to Hollow Point to regroup with Sasha and Fiona right away, or get a head start and go straight to Old Haven to wait for them there. Speaking of Sasha and Fiona, they find themselves in a small town on Pandora, where they find a garage owned by Scooter, who Fiona is able to convince to fix their caravan. As he starts, a couple of bounty hunters rough up Scooter looking for the sisters, but he doesn't give them up, instead warning them to lay low while he fixes their ride. Luckily, Felix's safe house is nearby, so Fiona and Sasha head there. Inside, they find a message recorded for them from Felix. In it, he apologizes, explaining that halfway through the job, he realized the people they were working for had connections to a dangerous gang lord named Valerie, leading to his betrayal to sever ties with them. While Fiona believes that Felix was only trying to protect them from this Valerie, Sasha has her doubts. Fiona then finds gifts from Felix left for each of his pupils. Hers, she finds, is an upgrade for her pistol. Sasha's, if Fiona decides to secretly take a peek, is a pocket watch with "Time heals all wounds" inscribed on it. Either way, Sasha has no interest in taking the gift, leaving Fiona to hold onto it for now. The pair are then interrupted when the men looking for them barge in, a pair of bounty hunters named Kroger and Finch. The pair are luckily able to escape when Fiona uses her new pistol upgrade, while Sasha uses a frying pan, giving them a chance to rush out into the alley. There, however, they're chased by a different hunter, Athena, who arrives and attempts to capture them as well. If Reese and Vaughn decided to regroup before going to Old Haven, Loaderbot comes to the sisters' rescue, who takes them back to Scooter's garage. There, the group reunites before leaving towards Old Haven in their fixed ride. Otherwise, the sisters reach the garage just before Athena can catch them. Inside, they meet Janie Springs, just as Athena enters. Janie surprisingly greets Athena as Hun, before giving her a kiss, introducing her as her girlfriend. Athena denies chasing them, as Janie made her promise to stop bounty hunting. Anyway, Sasha and Fiona retrieve the caravan and head to Old Haven, potentially snagging Athena's dropped shield along the way. Regardless of whether Reese and Vaughn went to Old Haven alone or with the sisters, they discover a hidden underground Atlas facility dedicated to the Gortys project. Inside, they find the corpses of Crimson Lance soldiers, before August and Vasquez arrive in tow to hold them at gunpoint. They try to command Loaderbot to attack, but seem to forget that he's Hyperion tech, which Vasquez is able to power down. Vasquez then slaps Reese, awakening the handsome Jack AI once again. Vasquez takes Reese with his half of the Gortys core, while August takes Fiona with hers, down opposite hallways. At either end, they're each forced to insert their half of the core into a terminal. The doors then lock, and the terminals join, assembling the Gortys project, a metal ball. The security systems activate, and Reese is given a dire choice: allow Fiona to take charge by throwing a grenade, or have the Jack AI hack the security systems. Either way, the security bots are disabled. No matter who Reese chose to trust, he and Fiona take the metal ball and descend down a maintenance hatch. They sneak past August's men, but are soon found and captured by Loaderbot, still under Vasquez's control. Thankfully, Fiona and Vaughn are able to destroy the remote control device and break free, with Loaderbot back on their side. When Vaughn is shocked by one of the facility's security bots, his entire body is left frozen and paralyzed. Sasha regroups with them, and after some clever teamwork, they're able to create an exit before Loaderbot carries everyone outside. There, they find a different group of bandits waiting for them, causing Loaderbot to crash. Fiona drops the metal ball, and it rolls before it's stopped by the leader of the outfit, Valerie. Kroger and Finch then arrive, still bitter over their last interaction, but Valerie stops them, electing to speak with Fiona instead. August and Vasquez then arrive, and Valerie asks Fiona which of them is to blame for fumbling the task. Fiona can then decide who to point the finger at, but if she chooses August, she learns that he is none other than Valerie's son, and she disappointingly pulls the ring out of his nose. Regardless, with the Gortys project obtained, Valerie realizes that she doesn't need Vasquez any longer, and shockingly grabs his gun before firing it directly at him point blank, splattering Hugo's life onto the concrete before the group. As Valerie prepares to eliminate the others as well, however, Athena arrives just in the nick of time to take down Valerie and her crew, forcing them to retreat. Athena then reveals that the contract she took wasn't to kill Sasha and Fiona, but instead to help them. As it turns out, Felix was the one who hired her, hoping she could pass down some of her skills and train the sisters to harness their full potential. Fiona then locates the on button on the metal ball, and it announces that an energy chassis is required for the Vault of the Traveler protocol, before Gortys is activated. The metal ball sprouts arms and a face, and Gortys is revealed to be a robot with a chipper personality, and she quickly greets them. Gortys explains that she was created by the Atlas Corporation as a last-ditch effort to find a vault. She then points the group, now including Athena, towards the location of her energy chassis, and they hop in the caravan to take off on this new leg of their adventure. Gortys then leads them to another Atlas facility, and inside, they're shocked to find a researcher, Dr. Cassius Leclamaine, claiming to be a drifter, residing there. He helps them deliver an antidote to Vaughn to get him control over his body again, before showing them the location of Gortys' upgrade within the facility. Unfortunately, the group has to get past an automated security system first. Rhys and Sasha go to shut down the system, while Fiona and Athena head off to retrieve the upgrade. Rhys and Sasha share a tender moment, and Athena shows Fiona how to fight like a real Vault Hunter. Using the eye she recovered, Fiona and Athena enter the room holding the Gortys chassis upgrade. Rhys hacks into the security, learning that Cassius is actually an Atlas employee. Fiona is able to grab the chassis upgrade and returns with Athena back to Vaughn and Cassius. Vaughn reveals that he learned the vault Atlas was searching for is called the Vault of the Traveler, named such because it teleports all over the universe. Rhys and Sasha then arrive and share their own revelation, that Cassius works for Atlas. Athena immediately snaps upon learning this, still holding a grudge against the corporation over her sister's death. While Cassius accepts his fate, Athena is suddenly interrupted by a large man bursting into the room, Brick, who grabs her and carries her away. At the same time, Valerie arrives and fires a rocket towards them, blasting the rest of the group to the ground. Rhys is knocked out in the blast and awakens to find the handsome Jack AI joining him once again. Valerie's men then grab Rhys and she demands the Gortys bot, which they soon find strapped to the loader bot. August and the others strip off Loaderbot's limbs to free Gortys, but Vaughn springs to action and grabs Valerie. Gortys breaks free and runs off, leaving August and Rhys to chase her. Meanwhile, Fiona has another run-in with Finch and Kroger over the chassis upgrade. Sasha comes to her aid, and the pair are able to scrap their way to defeating the bounty hunters and reacquiring the upgrade. Loaderbot arrives, or at least his top half, and Sasha goes with him to help Rhys catch Gortys. Loaderbot grabs Rhys and they chase August's truck while pursuing Gortys. During the ensuing struggle, August grabs the chassis upgrade, but as he holds it in the air, Gortys is able to magnetically snatch it from it, using it to upgrade on the spot to her new form with fully functioning legs. Unfortunately, their one weakness is soon exploited when two tripwires are thrown in front of Gortys, forcing her to trip and fall. Meanwhile, Athena fights with Brick as Fiona arrives to assist. Suddenly, the pair are pinned down by sniper gunfire, and Fiona spots Mordecai, who tells her that this is Vault Hunter business, allowing her to retort that she herself is a Vault Hunter, starting her own legend. Valerie then arrives, and despite Fiona's best efforts, she hands over Athena to Brick and Mordecai, who proceed to take her away. Valerie, meanwhile, has the rest of the group captive, including Gortys, who she threatens in order to give up the location of her last upgrade, so they can complete her and find the vault. Gortys then points to the sky and says, "It's there, on Helios." Brick and Mordecai, meanwhile, take Athena to Sanctuary, where she's brought before Lilith. The Siren threatens to kill Athena for her hand in Handsome Jack's rise to power, holding her partially responsible for Roland's death. Lilith gives her a chance to give her side of the story, and Athena begins to tell the very long tale. Once Athena finishes recounting her story, she admits that she regrets working for Jack. Lilith isn't moved, however. She orders her men to kill Athena for her part in Jack's rise, but as they fire, their bullets suddenly fall straight to the ground. The strange alien that once aided Colonel Zarpedon then appears, leaving everyone's jaws agape in shock and awe. The figure, known only as the Watcher, intervenes, revealing its true nature as one of Pandora's long-lost Iridians. The Watcher warns that now is not the time to bicker, as an even greater war is on the horizon, one that will require every Vault Hunter to stand together if the planet is to survive. Back in the Atlas facility, Gortys explains that while the Vault of the Traveler usually only stays in one spot for a few minutes before teleporting again, she can use her final upgrade to hold it in one spot so they can access it. Noting the danger of infiltrating the Hyperion stronghold, Valerie decides that she has more use for the rest of the group alive than dead. She stabs Sasha, threatening the group to come up with a plan to get the Gortys upgrade from Helios for her. Luckily, Rhys has an inside source, and the Handsome Jack AI informs them that the beacon is inside his office on Helios. Luckily for them, Hyperion offers tours of the moonbase, giving the Jack experience by showing his old office. Rhys's plan involves getting a spaceship from Scooter for the group to fly up to Helios. There, he'll call Yvette to have her let him in, where he'll disable security to allow Fiona and Sasha to pose as tour guides. When Fiona notes that Hyperion currently wants him dead, Rhys realizes that he can use Hugo's DNA to disguise himself as Rhys Quez. Rhys is taken with Finch and Kroger to Oldhaven to get Hugo's body, while August takes Sasha and Fiona to Hollow Point to talk with Scooter. The sisters talk with the mechanic, but Scooter unfortunately doesn't know much about rockets. He instead points them to his associate, Janie Springs, who's a bit out of sorts since Athena was captured. Fiona has the opportunity to tell Springs that Athena told her she loved her, before Janie agrees to build their rocket. She suggests that they bring a mechanic along, and Scooter excitedly volunteers to catch his first ride into space. Rhys, meanwhile, is dumped outside the entrance to Oldhaven by Finch and Kroger. He finds Vasquez's corpse, but unfortunately with its face detached. Rhys searches for it, finding it attached to the mask of one of the local psychos. He peels it off, but the psycho, who has a bomb strapped to his chest, awakens, forcing Rhys to run back to Finch and Kroger. As the psycho runs past Hugo's corpse, Finch shoots the bomb, causing it to explode and blast Vasquez's body into several pieces, all of which Rhys is forced to collect in bags and take back with them. Sasha and Fiona similarly assemble their own Hyperion disguises as Rhys uses a quick change machine to disguise his voice and appearance to match Vasquez. The group then launches their rocket into space and gazes upon the planet of Pandora once they reach orbit. As their craft approaches Helios, they collide with the still floating body of Vasquez's predecessor. It's sucked into the ship's vent, and Scooter has Fiona push the ship's thrusters past their limit so they can reach Helios. However, the ship's rockets become unstable, forcing Scooter and Fiona to do a spacewalk to detach them. Fiona takes care of one rocket, while Scooter focuses on the other. Unfortunately, while trying to detach his, Scooter gets his hand stuck in the rocket. He asks a tear-filled Fiona to cut his rocket loose, and she reluctantly does so after saying her goodbyes. As the rocket drifts away, Scooter asks his friends to tell Ellie and Moxxi that he died doing something awesome, before shouting his catchphrase one last time: "Catch a ride." The rocket, at a safe distance away, then explodes, taking with it the first casualty of the mission. The rest of the group then pay honor to Scooter however they see fit, but as they begin to dock on Helios, Yvette is unreachable, forcing Rhys to pose as Vasquez. Rhys Quez steps onto the spaceport with Vasquez's body parts, claiming them to be Rhys's. Yvette suddenly arrives and makes a shocking revelation. She had double-crossed Rhys and was working with Vasquez to try to obtain whatever was in his Echo Eye unit, and she's very upset that it's now supposedly destroyed. The disguised Rhys then goes off to Vasquez's office and overrides the security, allowing Fiona and Sasha to enter the Hub of Heroism to pose as tour guides. Fiona stumbles across the Handsome Jack VIP group, and she's forced to attempt to deliver a believable trek through Jack's history, including a monument to Butt Stallion. The tour then reaches Handsome Jack's office, but when one tour member gets a bit too eager and rushes in, a security field activates and vaporizes him immediately, initiating a lockdown. She calls Rhys, who looks for another way into the office just as Yvette arrives, forcing him to cut the call short. Yvette announces that they determined the body he gave them wasn't Rhys. She calls security, forcing Rhys Quez to cut her own call short one way or another. The Jack AI then informs Rhys about a trapdoor in his office that's accessible through one of the prison cells. Fiona then gets herself arrested by sabotaging some property in order to meet Rhys down in the prison level. Rhys Kez, meanwhile, is then left to have an epic finger gun fight with his fellow Hyperion employees in order to reach the prison himself. There, Rhys meets Fiona and Gortys before ditching his disguise. They help boost Rhys up to the trapdoor, and he's able to successfully enter Jack's office. There, Rhys searches for and eventually finds Gortys' beacon upgrade. Meanwhile, down in the prison, Yvette appears before Fiona with some Hyperion guards, who have a captured Sasha in tow. As Rhys sits in Handsome Jack's chair to initiate the trapdoor to exit, the Jack AI speaks to him about his own time sitting in the chair. He offers Rhys the power that he once held in the Hyperion throne, offering to take control of the corporation together. Rhys is then given the opportunity to get what he always wanted: rule Hyperion. On the other hand, he can learn from his adventure and decline becoming the next Handsome Jack. Either way, Rhys plugs the executive override port into his Echo Eye, either voluntarily or through Jack taking control of his mechanical arm. The Handsome Jack AI is then unleashed out of the prison that was Rhys's head, and he quickly takes control of all of the systems on Helios. Based on Rhys's decision, he's either crowned as president of Hyperion for about 5 minutes, or is simply left powerless in the chair. Either way, Jack hijacks the station systems and shows Rhys another one of Nakayama's creations, a robotic endoskeleton. They originally planned to put it inside of Jack's body before uploading his consciousness into it, but since he died before that could happen, Rhys will be taking his place. Rhys is able to scramble away from Jack's attempt to graft the endoskeleton with his body, managing to snag the Gortys beacon and bail through the trapdoor. Down in the prison level, he regroups with Fiona, Sasha, and Gortys, who are able to shake off their captors. They soon get separated, however, forcing Fiona and Sasha to rush off with Gortys and the upgrade to the hangar bay, while Rhys figures out a way to get the doors open. As the Handsome Jack AI wreaks havoc through the Helios facility while searching for Rhys, August arrives to help protect Sasha and Fiona. They escape to the hangar bay to find Finch and Kroger waiting for them, informing them that Valerie's got a different plan. They take Gortys and the upgrade, intending to leave. August has a change of heart and decides to try to stop them, but despite their efforts, the bounty hunters fly off in their caravan after Sasha climbs aboard with August. Rhys, meanwhile, works to get Helios's power core shut down. Despite almost falling into space, he's able to shut it down just in time to see the caravan fly off without him. Loaderbot then helps Fiona to an escape pod, sending her off to search for Gortys while he stays behind to look for Rhys. After rescuing him, Loaderbot helps Rhys search for another pod, but they run into Kroger, similarly stranded. Loaderbot shields Rhys from Kroger's gunfire while pushing him into the final escape pod and launching it. As the doors close, Rhys is forced to watch through the window of the pod as Kroger arrives and shoots Loaderbot. Without power, the Helios station falls out of orbit and comes crashing down into Pandora, while Fiona and Rhys's pods crash land elsewhere, knocking them both unconscious. When Rhys awakens, he finds himself in the wreckage of the City of Opportunity. He finds a monitor displaying the Handsome Jack AI, who laments losing Helios once again. He tells Rhys that he's proud of him for never giving up, but secretly connects another probe to his skull, re-uploading himself into Rhys's Echo Eye. The Handsome Jack AI then takes control of Rhys's mechanical arm, forcing him to rip it out with his other. With Jack still alive in his Echo Eye, Rhys is then forced to cut it out of his own skull with a shard of glass. As the Handsome Jack AI pleads for his life, Rhys yanks out his cybernetic eye, finally shutting the AI down. Rhys is then given the option to crush his implant to destroy the Handsome Jack AI forever, or keep it for an undetermined purpose. Either way, Rhys passes out from this ordeal. Meanwhile, Fiona lands elsewhere on Pandora and emerges from her pod to receive a call from Sasha with some horrible news. Valerie used the beacon to upgrade Gortys and summon the Vault, unleashing its massive guardian, the Traveler. Fiona makes her way toward Valerie, finding a dying Finch on the way, and having the opportunity to take him out or let him rot. Once Fiona reaches Valerie, their confrontation is cut short as the Traveler arrives and crushes her, instantly killing Valerie, much to the anguish of an onlooking August. Afterwards, Gortys pleads for Fiona to use Valerie's fallen rocket launcher to kill her, as deactivating the beacon will cause the Traveler to teleport away. Fiona fires, but misses the shot. Sasha then arrives in the nick of time and grabs the rocket launcher as well, helping her sister aim it to hit and destroy Gortys, sacrificing her and causing the vault, as well as the Traveler, to disappear. Rhys later awakens alone in Handsome Jack's office and snags the rights to the Atlas Corporation, which Jack had previously bought, hoping to build something out of it someday, although they aren't signed or legal in any way whatsoever. He then returns to the abandoned facility and starts working on some prototypes, including one of a new arm for himself. Much later, Rhys returns to Prosperity Junction to search for Fiona. He instead finds a masked stranger holding a gun, who knocks Rhys unconscious yet again before taking him captive. When Rhys awakens, he finds himself tied up with the stranger dragging him through the city. The stranger then instructs Rhys to tell him everything he knows about the Gortys project. As Rhys tells his side of the story, the stranger takes him to a safe house where he has a similarly captive Fiona. After the pair's not-so-friendly reunion, Fiona fills in her side of the adventure. The two go back and forth recounting the past half hour or so of this video as the stranger takes them to an unknown destination, while collecting various scattered pieces of the Gortys project along the way. Once they arrive at their final stop, the pair learn what the stranger captured them for: a hostage trade. A still surviving Kroger then appears to exchange his own masked prisoner to the mysterious stranger, in exchange for Rhys and Fiona. As Kroger prepares to deliver his payback to Fiona for Finch's death, the stranger suddenly steps in and chokes Finch out, killing him near instantly. The prisoner Finch delivered then lifts his hand, indicating to someone far off. Suddenly, red dots trained on Rhys, Fiona, and the stranger's chests appear. They then converge on the stranger alone, and the prisoner knocks him down before tying him up instead. The prisoner frees Fiona and Rhys before finally taking off his mask to reveal none other than Vaughn underneath. He then calls out to his allies, telling them to turn off their laser pointers. As it turns out, Vaughn and the other Hyperion survivors took up refuge in the remains of the Helios wreck, turning it into a base and calling themselves the Children of Helios. Vaughn was subsequently elected their leader. After taking the mysterious stranger back to the base, they interrogate him to learn that he was actually Loaderbot all along. After watching Fiona and Sasha fire the rocket launcher at their friend Gortys, he needed to know why. He crawled back to Helios and grafted himself to Jack's endoskeleton, effectively giving himself a humanoid body. Now knowing that he wasn't betrayed, Loaderbot happily announces his intentions with getting the group back together. Loaderbot reveals that he wants to rebuild Gortys and summon the Vault of the Traveler, so they can join together and defeat it, allowing Gortys to finish her duty so she can live in peace. While the group knows the insurmountable odds facing them, they agree to the plan. Fiona is then left to assemble a team of 3 other Vault Hunters, and based on her and Rhys's actions thus far, her options include Janie Springs, Zero, Athena, August, Cassius, and even Felix, if Fiona warned him about the bomb and prevented his death after his betrayal. If Fiona hires Felix, however, he instead calls her and explains that he never double-crossed her. In fact, everything he did was part of a larger con to make it appear as if the Hyperion money was destroyed. In reality, Felix secretly stashed the money in an armoire in the caravan, which now rests in the desert in the location Felix had Fiona meet him. With the $9 million he left to Fiona and Sasha, Felix hopes that they can find the better life that they deserve. Needing someone to take Felix's place, Fiona can then use the money she recently procured to hire a new member, Claptrap, Yay. With the squad determined, whomever it may contain, the crew assemble at the Children of Helios' base to plan their final attack. Vaughn determines that the Traveler is big, it's nasty, and it's gotta go. He instructs Fiona to drive the caravan with Sasha into the stomach of the Traveler before destroying the gland that allows it to teleport. Reese and the rest of the team will ensure Gortys can get the Traveler into position so Vaughn can fire a moonshot from Helios to defeat the Traveler for good. Sasha then arrives with a fresh new do, and reunites with Reese before the mission commences. The group exit out into Pandora, where Reese and Fiona each hold their half of the Gortys core, causing them to combine once more and rebirth their friend in her fully upgraded form. The beacon immediately activates, summoning the vault and the Traveler along with it. Unfortunately, Gortys isn't as up for the plan as everyone else, and doesn't want to put her friends in danger by failing again. Things go further south when Vaughn gets a little too trigger-happy and fires the moonshot too early, completely missing the Traveler. Reese convinces Gortys to go with the plan, but she insists that he drive. She then grabs Reese and places him at her controls, leaving him to fight the Traveler while Sasha and Fiona fly into its stomach. Inside, they find two smaller Guardians protecting the teleportation gland. Outside, Gortys pulls the other team members into her cockpit, learning from their own personal skill sets to adopt new moves into her fighting arsenal while taking on the Traveler. Depending on the team members selected, Gortys has access to various spectacular moves that I meticulously played through this game multiple times to capture. Let's enjoy some of them now so that I can put that footage to use. Ooh. That one's cool. Oh, I like that one. Oh, it's pretty cool. Inside the Traveler, the sisters use their skills to dodge, distract, and dispatch the Guardians long enough for Sasha to plant explosives on the transportation gland. The pair drive away from the blast radius, but when they learn that they're out of range of the detonator, Sasha takes it and exits the caravan, sacrificing herself and rushing back into the Traveler while Fiona drives out. Fiona tries to turn around to go back into the Traveler's stomach, but the explosive is set off moments later, successfully destroying the teleportation gland and grounding the beast. Fiona and Vaughn then fire the moonshot, weakening the Traveler before Reese has Gortys deliver the final blow, bringing the massive creature down for good and marking their mission a success. In the wake of the battle, the group briefly celebrate, and Loaderbot is reunited with Gortys in her normal form. Reese sees Fiona and realizes that Sasha is missing, leaving the pair to frantically search for her. Reese then finds her dying on the ground, and Fiona rushes over to be with her sister. Felix's gift then shows its true purpose. The watch, with "Time heals all wounds" inscribed on it, turns out to be a bit more literal than one would think. It raises above Sasha's chest and lifts her into the air, healing her back to perfect health, before dropping her from 15 or so feet in the air. Fiona rushes over and hugs her sister, and the group celebrate their victory properly, leaving with new friends and a ton of loot. Reese and Fiona then spot the entrance to the vault, and leave the rest of the group behind to race each other to it. They reach it together and enter, finding a stairway leading to a chest glowing with iridium energy. After some reminiscing and talking about their plans for the future, the pair open the chest and are suddenly teleported to another location. There, Reese and Fiona encounter the Seraphim, an Iridian entity that grants each of them a single wish. Reese requests full legal ownership of Atlas Corporation, which is granted. Fiona wishes for Sasha to be with her, and the Seraphim teleports Sasha to her side. Luckily, Fiona's given a real wish, and Sasha requests a rare, mint-condition Typhon DeLeon Vaultlander figure, which the Seraphim produces. Reese then departs, determined to rebuild Atlas, while Fiona and Sasha leave with the Vaultlander figure and plan to sell it to secure a new life. Upon arriving on the planet Eden 5, the sisters are attacked by a thief who steals the figurine, but he is killed by the planet's automated Secbots, and the toy is returned to them, bloody. Later, in the capital, Secbots find them for violating a neighborhood dress code. When they can't pay on the spot, the bots apply debt cuffs, restraints used to control debtors and enforce social order. The sisters arrange a sale of the figurine with Countess Cassandra Holloway, a powerful aristocrat. Holloway initially mocks them, but confirms the authenticity of the Vaultlander. During the meeting, Gage and her robot companion Deathtrap appear, seeking revenge on Holloway. A fight breaks out, and in the chaos, Fiona accidentally shoots Gage, Holloway is injured, and Gage smashes the Vaultlander against Holloway's face, detonating a hidden grenade and destroying the figurine. With the Vaultlander gone, Holloway offers payment instead for Gage, who has a massive bounty on her head for the death of a girl years earlier. The sisters take the job and subsequently deliver a captured Gage to Holloway. While Gage is tortured, Fiona and Sasha learn that her father died in a debtor's prison after taking on and serving her sentence. Sasha bribes the guards and even the warden to free Gage and expose Holloway's corruption. The sisters and Gage then begin targeting Eden 5's elites. They infiltrate a gala at Holloway's estate disguised as staff, and during the event, Holloway activates an orbital weapon to bombard Rustville, the city of debtors, while the assembled elites laugh at the destruction. Gage then reveals herself and surrenders to Holloway, hoping to stop the attack. With Holloway distracted, the Rusters revolt. Along with Fiona and Sasha, they storm the estate and fight through to Holloway's panic room. Gage, having escaped from Holloway's clutches, joins the sisters in the panic room and, after a final struggle, defeats Holloway by throwing her to her death. The rebels then seize control of the estate, though several die in the fighting. Fitzwiggins, Holloway's butler, warns that the other elites of Eden 5 will retaliate, and that Fiona and Sasha may become scapegoats for the Civil War. The sisters then leave Eden 5 without the wealth they sought, but alive and together with whatever future awaits them, while Reese continues his work rebuilding Atlas. Sometime later, with Sanctuary still without a leader, Lilith refuses to take command of the Crimson Raiders, and the group grows restless about leaving Pandora to search for more vaults using the map they discovered. However, before the debate can go any further, the city is suddenly attacked. As soldiers invade from ships, a strange, toxic spore gas floods the streets, transforming anyone it touches into monstrous, plant-like creatures. Forced to retreat, Lilith phases herself and as many of the Crimson Raiders as she can out of Sanctuary. In the chaos, however, the vault key, which contains the map of the other vaults, is left behind, and the attackers reveal themselves: Colonel Hector and the new Pandora army, the remains of an abandoned doll battalion. Hector seizes Sanctuary, declaring his plan to blanket Pandora in the spores and reshape it into his so-called paradise. Meanwhile, Lilith and the surviving raiders regroup at a ruined doll base known as the Backburner, where they're surprised to find it still occupied by a single inhabitant, Vaughn. With his help, they reactivate the defenses and establish a temporary base of operations, before retrieving samples of the spores for Dr. Patricia Tanis to study. She traces them back to Mount Scarab and a scientist who turns out to be Cassius Leclamaine, who admits that Hector tricked him into creating the gas. Cassius promises an antidote, but reaching him will not be easy. On their way to Cassius, the Vault Hunters meet up with Mordecai and his new companion, Talon. Unfortunately, during an ambush, Mordecai is infected, and Lilith rushes him back to camp while the hunters secure a blood sample for Cassius. Unfortunately, Hector has locked down the route to his lab, forcing the Crimson Raiders to seek a weapon large enough to blast through. Luckily, Helios and its moonshot cannon are still crashed on Pandora. Brick arrives and lends his muscle as the team pushes through the burrows towards the wreck of Helios. There, Lilith teleports Tiny Tina in, who's more than eager to help rebuild the moonshot cannon. The group obtains a power core, loads Tina's custom dragon explosives, and blows open the sealed gate to Mount Scarab. Finally, the hunters reach Cassius's lab, but when they scan Mordecai's sample, they discover that it's been left unusable by the lab's decontamination chamber. Cassius then reveals that he's in the late stages of infection himself, and nearly fully mutated. He asks the hunters to end his life and use his blood instead. They oblige, sacrificing Cassius and return his blood to Tanis, who who successfully develops an antidote using his research, one that also grants the hunters immunity to Hector's gas. Armed with the cure, the hunters storm the now overgrown sanctuary, now dubbed Hector's Paradise Sanctum. Inside, they finally confront Hector, who infects himself directly with the spores to grow larger and more powerful. Though the hunters bring him down after a rough battle, he soon rises again, accelerating the spread of the spores. In the final moments, Lilith arrives, using her siren power to banish both Hector and Sanctuary, ensuring the infection dies with him. The vault key, however, survives, but is lost somewhere in the wastes of Pandora. With Sanctuary destroyed and the artifact gone, the Crimson Raiders are left without a home or a plan. Lilith, now resolved, steps into leadership at last, taking Roland's place and vowing to rebuild the Crimson Raiders and take the search for the vaults beyond Pandora. Nearly a decade later, a new threat emerges on Pandora. Twin siblings Tyreen and Troy Calypso have united the bandit hordes into the Cult of the Children of the Vault, or COV, all in pursuit of an ancient ultimate vault known as the Great Vault. Meanwhile, Lilith, still leading the Crimson Raiders, rallies a new generation of vault hunters to search for the still-lost vault map. 4 fresh fortune seekers answer the call. Amara, a famed siren brawler craving action, Zane Flint, a tech-savvy operative from a family of bandits, Mose, a battle-hardened ex-soldier with a giant mech, and Flack, a rogue AI who roams with loyal pet beasts. The rookie vault hunters are picked up by Marcus Kincaid in his bus and immediately contacted by Lilith, who informs them about the Children of the Vault before vowing to find the Great Vault before they can. Lilith has them meet with her scout, Claptrap, who gives them an echo device and leads them to a COV propaganda center. There, the hunters take down a COV member named Shiv, before Lilith teleports in to meet them in person. The group clear out the propaganda center and take it as the Crimson Raiders' new base. Lilith reveals that the Raiders heard a rumor that a bandit clan found an alien artifact in the desert, which has led them here. They uncover a recording from a bandit known as Mouthpiece, announcing that the vault map was in fact recovered by the Sun Smasher clan. Lilith and the hunters fight their way to reach their leader, who turns out to be our old friend Vaughn once again. They take him back to camp, where he reveals that his cult is taking the alien artifact to the Calypso twins as an offering at the Holy Broadcast Center. After meeting Elian using the Catch-A-Ride station, the hunters drive to the Holy Broadcast Center, where the Calypso twins are live streaming their search for the Great Vault, including their upcoming procurement of the vault map. The hunters try to find the Sun Smashers before they deliver it, but they're confronted by Mouthpiece and forced to fight. After killing Mouthpiece, the hunters find the vault map on him and retrieve it. They're then met by a transmission from the twins, who reveal that Tyreen has used her powers as a siren to somehow drain the life force from the Sun Smashers who delivered the map. Unfortunately, when the hunters return the vault map to Lilith, she's unable to charge it. Knowing there's only one person on Pandora who can figure it out, Lilith sends the hunters to an Iridian dig site to meet with Dr. Patricia Tanis. Tanis examines the map, but COV bandits attack the lab, forcing Lilith to teleport in to assist in holding them off. Afterward, Tanis gets the map working again. However, Tyreen's failed attempt to use it damaged its data, leaving only one planet decipherable, Promethea, the same planet where Typhon de Leon found the first vault years ago. Now with a destination, the Vault Hunters meet with Lilith and Ellie at a nearby dry dock and help get their new ship up and running. Just as they do, however, the Calypso twins arrive and take the vault map from Lilith by force. She attempts to hold off Tyreen with her own siren abilities, learning that Troy also has siren powers, due to him and Tyreen originally being conjoined at birth, but he relies on Tyreen to keep him alive. Tyreen then drains the energy from Lilith, leaving her alive, but powerless. The twins then start streaming live, showing Lilith's capture, Tyreen's absorption of her abilities, and their reclamation of the map, leading to their next stop, Promethea. The twins then teleport away, leaving the weakened Lilith alone for the Vault Hunters to rush to. They rescue her, taking out her attackers and getting her to the ship. The group then leave Pandora behind, taking off in their craft, christened Sanctuary 3. We don't talk about Sanctuary 2. Once in space, Lilith and the crew, Tannis, Ellie, Claptrap, and the Hunters, discuss her new lack of abilities. She knows that while she may not be a Siren anymore, she's still a Crimson Raider, and they've got to beat the Calypsos to the vault on Promethea. After taking care of some roadblocks in the air and meeting some of Sanctuary's other inhabitants, like Moxxi and Marcus, the Vault Hunters chart the ship's course to Promethea. When they arrive, however, they find a blockade set up around the planet by the Malawan Corporation, despite Promethea being under Atlas's control. Apparently, the Raiders have walked right into the middle of a hostile takeover, as they pick up a distress call from Atlas on Promethea. Hoping having Atlas as an ally will help them in their search for the vault, Lilith has the new Vault Hunters get down to the planet to help them. On Promethea, the Vault Hunters meet Lorelei, an Atlas barista turned resistance fighter. Lorelei helps guide them through the planet to find her boss and CEO of Atlas Corporation, Rhys Strongfork. They fight through Malawan and COV forces, learning that they're working together before reaching and liberating the Atlas Watershed base. There, they're able to open up communications with Atlas HQ to speak with Rhys, who has grown a siege mustache. Rhys informs them that his top agent is preparing to strike at Malawan's Gigamind, believing that to be where any intel they have on the vault would be. The Hunters find Rhys's agent, who turns out to be Zero, and work with him to take out a nearby Malawan weapons depot. While doing so, they meet Malawan's CEO, Katagawa Jr., through several threatening transmissions, where he seems to have an odd obsession with Rhys. The Hunters and Zero then find the Gigamind, which turns out to be a sentient being with a large brain in a jar. They kill it, taking its data to the Watershed base to upload to Rhys. He promises the Atlas Corporation's cooperation in exchange for the data, and the Hunters upload it to him for analysis. In the data, Rhys discovers that Malawan is searching for the Vault Key fragments on another planet, Athenas. The Hunters return to Sanctuary and call down to Athenas, reaching Maya, the Siren who was part of the group of Vault Hunters that took down Handsome Jack. They chart a course to Athenas, where the new Hunters assist Maya in fighting off Malawan. When they find Maya, she leads them to meet her apprentice, a young Siren named Ava, who has taken an oath of nonviolence. The Hunters assist Ava in collecting iridium from a graveyard before taking out Malawan Captain Trant and delivering it to Maya. Maya is able to use her Siren powers to open a path to an Iridian relic, one fragment of the Vault Key. Maya and Ava join the Vault Hunters and take the key fragment back to Sanctuary, where they deliver it to Tannis for examination. Before they can plan their search for the other fragments, however, Rhys calls asking for help at Atlas HQ, where Katagawa has an asteroid-mounted laser trained unless Rhys surrenders. Zero reports that the laser is powered by a Vault Key fragment, immediately convincing Lilith to help. The Vault Hunters then return to Promethea and meet with Rhys and steal a Malawan shuttle, which they take to the Skywell 27 asteroid belt. There, they mow down waves of Malawan security forces to help Rhys shut down the laser, but not before using it to destroy Katagawa's personal yacht. The Hunters then take the Vault Key fragment powering the laser and return it to Tannis on Sanctuary. Rhys then calls again with intel on the final Vault Key fragment. He's actually had it with him the entire time in Atlas headquarters. He was hoping to research it to keep Atlas profitable, but he feels the Crimson Raiders deserve it. The Vault Hunters then return to Promethea once again and enter a secret VIP entrance to Atlas HQ. While Zero was supposed to meet him there, they find no sign of him, instead spotting the corpses of Atlas security that were seemingly slain at his hand. Malawan then breaches Atlas's security, forcing the Vault Hunters to fight them off while getting the defenses running. Once they do, however, Rhys calls to inform them that Zero appears to have double-crossed him and is now attacking him. The Vault Hunters reach him to watch Zero seemingly fighting Rhys, only for the real Zero to arrive and knock off the imposter's helmet, revealing Katagawa Jr. underneath. The Vault Hunters then proceed to take down Katagawa in battle, killing him and finally removing that thorn in Rhys's side. With that favor, as well as advice on his mustache, Rhys hands over the final Vault Key fragment, which the hunters quickly take back to Sanctuary and deliver to Tanis to complete the vault key. Lilith then calls Rhys again for the location of the vault, which he reveals the old Atlas Corporation paved over and is now underneath the Apollyon transit station. Maya joins the Vault Hunters back down to Promethea, where Ellie provides a vehicle with a mounted machine gun for them to drive to the station. Blasting their way through COV forces led on by giant holographic projections of the Calypso twins, the Vault Hunters eventually reach the station. There, they find a tunnel leading to the vault, spotting Guardians as they near it. The Vault Hunters then use the completed vault key to enter the vault, revealing its inhabitant, the Rampager. After a ferocious battle with the ancient creature, Maya and the Hunters are able to take the creature down, creating a shower of loot and leaving the vault safe to enter. Despite Maya's instructions, Ava teleports in to see the vault herself, and the Hunters enter it alone while the Siren scolds her apprentice. Inside the vault, the Hunters are contacted by Tanis using technology she based off of Lilith's siren powers. Tanis realizes that the vault is connected to another one on Eden 6, giving them their next destination. When the Vault Hunters exit the vault, they find themselves in the middle of an argument with Maya and Ava, who wants her mentor to give her a bit more freedom. Suddenly, the party is crashed by the Calypso twins, who teleport in, thanking them for doing all of the hard work getting the vault open. Tyreen then absorbs the energy from the Rampager, revealing that the twins aren't after the vaults. They're after the monsters inside of them, so they can collect their powers. Tyreen then grabs Ava, forcing Maya to take Troy in response. Her plan backfires, however, as Troy is able to grab her and, surprisingly, start absorbing her life force. Maya tells Ava to be ready before disintegrating. Having what they came for, the Calypso twins then teleport away, leaving Ava to mourn her loss. The Vault Hunters then return to Sanctuary, where Lilith decides to continue their mission to open the vaults despite the loss of Maya. Ava, who thinks opening more vaults will only lead to more casualties, instead thinks they should go after the Calypsos directly. Regardless, the Vault Hunters decide to fly to Eden 6 to meet with an old friend in the area, Sir Hammerlock. Unfortunately, they receive a call from Hammerlock's partner, Wainwright Jacobs, who is also heir to the Jacobs Corporation. Wainwright informs them that Hammerlock was kidnapped by the COV, who are also there for him. The Vault Hunters get down to Eden 6 and find Wainwright, who reveals that the Calypso twins murdered his father before taking Hammerlock hostage, demanding the vault key that the Jacobs family possesses in return. Wainwright agrees to give the key to the Crimson Raiders instead, so long as they rescue Sir Hammerlock from a prison called the Anvil. During the rescue, the Hunters meet another mercenary Wainwright hired to free Hammerlock, Brick, who leads them to another familiar face on the mission, a now not-so-tiny Tina. Tina assembles a bomb for the Vault Hunters, who are introduced to another one of their predecessors shortly after, Mordecai, along with Talon. The Hunters use Tina's bomb to get into the prison, finding Sir Hammerlock and freeing him from his captor, the Warden, who they quickly dispose of. After the fight, Hammerlock reveals that it was his own sister, Aurelia, previously one of Handsome Jack's Vault Hunters, who was the one who turned him over to the Calypsos. When the Hunters return with Sir Hammerlock to Wainwright, Aurelia calls them, claiming to be the new CEO of Jacobs Corporation, and bribing them to leave the planet. She invites them to meet her at the Jacobs Manor to discuss the terms, and Wainwright recommends that they accept the invitation to keep her distracted while he searches for where his father hid the vault key. Unfortunately, when they arrive at the manor to meet with Aurelia, they find that the meeting was a ruse. They instead find Troy Calypso waiting for them, speaking to Aurelia, who's in another location. Troy uses the siren ability he stole from Maya to hold the Hunters captive while he monologues, but he's cut short by Wainwright, who arrives and fires a gun at Troy. Jacobs then keeps Troy occupied instead, while the Hunters search for the vault key. Despite learning of Troy's ability to imbue COV members with his own powers, the Hunters find a vinyl record left by the Jacobs' father and return it to Wainwright. While he gets his record player working, Jacobs sends the Vault Hunters to meet with a gunslinger he hired named Clay to build an army to resist Aurelia and the Children of the Vault. The hunters then meet with Clay, working with him to free some prisoners and obtain some weapons while liberating the town of Reliance and rescuing a gunsmith from the COV. They return to Wainwright and listen to the record, which contains a message from his father, Montgomery, who reveals the 3 locations of the Vault Key fragments he had in his possession. The Vault Hunters then look for one of the fragments on Montgomery's crashed spaceship, the Family Jewel, while Hammerlock and Jacob search for the other 2. When the group approaches the ship, they receive a call from someone calling themselves Balix, claiming to be the Jewel's navigator. They soon learn that Balix is an artificial intelligence and is currently inside of a pink plush bear. They pick him up, and Balix leads them to the Jewel, informing them about the hostile combat pilot AI, Genevieve, which is still currently aboard. Inside the crashed ship, the Vault Hunters install Balix onto an EMS bot, and later onto a combat mech. Working together, Balix and the Hunters are able to get to the ship's bridge to take on Genevieve. After defeating the AI in battle, the Hunters are able to obtain the Vault Key fragment, taking it, as well as Balix, back to Sanctuary. Unfortunately, they find that Genevieve had survived and tagged along, and she proceeds to take over Sanctuary's systems. The Hunters plug Balix into the ship, and he's able to remove her from the system, storing her off onto a hard drive, which the Vault Hunters give to Marcus. The Hunters then give the Vault Key fragment to Tanis, who's working on a way to destroy the Vault monster before the Calypsos can take its power. The Hunters then return to Clay, who sends them to meet with an associate of his named Archimedes, a smuggler whom he sent to search for one of the Vault Key fragments. They soon learn, however, that Archimedes took a deal from Aurelia to double-cross Clay, receiving powers from Troy Calypso. The Vault Hunters are forced to kill Archimedes and retrieve the Vault Key fragment from his corpse. The Hunters then return to Sanctuary and give the fragment to Tanis, receiving a call from Wainwright, who has found the location of the final one, the Jacobs family cellar of gunpowder. They return to Eden 6 and attack the Jacobs estate, reaching the gunpowder mill where they're able to recover the final Vault Key fragment to unlock the vault on Eden 6. Before they can leave to open the vault, however, Aurelia stops Hammerlock and Wainwright at gunpoint. Preparing to put an end to the Jacobs family once and for all, Aurelia attacks, but Hammerlock steps in front of her. She shoots her brother regardless before freezing both him and Wainwright in ice. The Vault Hunters finally take on Aurelia in combat, and while her ice-powered attacks prove formidable, the new generation of Vault Hunters are able to take out the old one, killing Lady Aurelia Hammerlock. Luckily, Sir Hammerlock and Wainwright Jacobs thaw and stay behind to recover, leaving the Vault Hunters to find the entrance to the vault out in the garden. After solving some light statue-based puzzles, the Hunters reveal the vault's entrance, where Tanis meets them to collect the final fragment and assemble the key. Its entrapped monster is then revealed, the massive Grave Ward, which the Hunters take down in another grueling battle. Afterward, Tanis successfully drains the energy from the monster before Tyreen Calypso can. With the Grave Ward completely destroyed, the Hunters enter the vault to loot it, discovering that it's not only connected to the vault on Promethea, but also the one on Pandora, as well as another that Tanis doesn't recognize. When they exit the vault to regroup with Tanis, however, the Doctor is suddenly phased away and kidnapped by Troy Calypso. The Hunters rush back to Sanctuary to speak with Lilith, but they're interrupted by one of the Calypso twins' live streams, coming from the planet Pandora. In it, they show off their new captive, Tanis, and prepare to murder her live on stream. Before they can, however, they need their fans to donate Iridium to charge the Great Vault's key, which they've acquired. The Vault Hunters return to Pandora, where Tanis is able to contact them like Lilith did once again, urging them to rescue her. They soon meet with Vaughn, who has been monitoring the COV's movements on the planet, learning that Tanis has been taken to a murder festival run by two streamers named Pain and Terror. The Hunters get into the festival just in time to stop the massive tank holding Tanis. They enter it to find the main arena for the stream, where Pain and Terror have Tanis tied up before the crowd. After the Vault Hunters destroy their Agonizer 9000 machine, the Iridium powering it is unleashed. Surprisingly, it's then absorbed by Tanis, revealing that the Doctor had a secret. She had been hiding siren powers of her own. After taking out Pain and Terror, the Vault Hunters speak with Tannis, who explains that she got her powers as a gift from a guardian angel, revealing how she was really able to communicate with them and absorb the power from the Grave Ward. They then return to Sanctuary, where the group determines that if the Great Vault is real, they have to prevent the Calypsos from stealing the power of whatever it must be holding. Lilith then sends the hunters back to Pandora to meet with Vaughn, and they inform him to rally the Crimson Raiders to attack the Calypso's Iridium stronghold. The hunters then work with Tannis to take out the COV turret defenses before returning to Sanctuary to prepare their final assault. Unfortunately, their planning is interrupted by the Calypsos, who tell them to look out the window of their ship. Troy then uses their massive Iridium, as well as the abilities they stole from Lilith, to charge Elpis, Pandora's moon. The Calypsos then reveal that Elpis itself is actually the key to the Great Vault, and once it opens, they'll only have to absorb the power of the monster inside, forcing the world to watch them become a god. With no time to lose, the Vault Hunters say their goodbyes to those staying back on Sanctuary, just in case, before returning to Pandora to take on the Calypsos. Ava, Lilith, Tannis, Vaughn, and the Vault Hunters then work together to get through the legions of COV defenses on their way to the Twins. The Hunters get into their stronghold, and while they're able to take out the Iridium supply to Troy, he's still left charging Elpis somehow. Lilith determines that he must be leeching whatever power Tyreen has in order to keep charging the moon, leading the Hunters to race to find him. When they do, the Vault Hunters are finally able to fight Troy Calypso one-on-one. Though he uses the leeched abilities stolen from the other Sirens, the Hunters are able to take him down, killing one half of the Calypso twins. Ava then rushes over and touches Troy, inheriting Maya's powers from him, which Tannis theorizes have finally found their rightful owner. While Lilith's powers aren't returned to her, she's just happy to know that they're finally safe, and the threat of the Children of the Vault is now over. That is, until Elpis erupts. Tyreen awakens and congratulates her late brother for completing his mission, before absorbing the rest of the powers that are within him. She then rises off the ground with her siren-like wings, proclaiming that the Great Vault is opening, and that the Destroyer, the monster Lilith herself once helped release and defeat, will soon rise and be free again. Tyreen then buries the Crimson Raiders under a pile of rubble, proclaiming her victory to her stream viewers, before signing off. To be continued in Borderlands 4. Just kidding. Ava is able to protect the group using her new abilities, and Lilith makes a massive revelation. Pandora itself is the Great Vault, and its landscape is shifting to open. The group then overhear a transmission coming from a nearby echo device, and when they answer it, they learn that the man on the other end is none other than Typhon DeLeon, the original Vault Hunter. Typhon warns them to get off of Pandora and get to Necro-Tefeo, the fabled lost home planet of the Iridians. Inside the smaller vault on Pandora, the hunters find a device to translate Iridian text. They return to Tannis' lab on Sanctuary and use the device to uncover a long, hidden message. The message tells of an ancient siren named Nereid, who was forced to seal away the lives of all of the Iridians in a willing sacrifice. Their power fueled a machine that imprisoned the Destroyer, whose strength threatened the entire galaxy, inside of the Great Vault, which became the planet Pandora. The Crimson Raiders then follow Typhon DeLeon's frequency, charting a course to Necro-Tefeo. When they reach the ancient Iridian homeworld, the Vault Hunters touch down and begin their search for Typhon. After traversing through the remnants of Malawan camps, the hunters find Typhon DeLeon. Typhon then leads them to the Iridian machine that locked away the Destroyer the first time, hoping they can use it again. To open it, however, they'll need 4 vault keys, 3 of which they've already acquired through their travels. The final vault key was luckily left by Typhon at a vault on Necro-Tefeo. However, the hunters are required to fight through an army of Malawan defenses on their way, including General Trant, the older brother of the Captain Trant the hunters took out earlier. When the hunters reach the vault on Necro-Tefeo, Tyreen calls them with another massive revelation. Typhon DeLeon is her father. As it turns out, Typhon and his late wife Lita birthed the children on the planet, where they raised them until Tyreen accidentally killed her mother with her siren abilities. Typhon then raised them, telling them tales of the Great Vault, but never allowing them to leave the planet. Their resentment grew, and they eventually left him behind to search for the powers of the vaults. The hunters enter the Necrotafeo vault and take out its guardians to allow Typhon to safely enter. He takes responsibility for the monsters his children became, knowing that the Vault Hunter's job is to take monsters down. The hunters retrieve the final vault key from Lita's headstone, taking it back to Sanctuary for Tanis and Ava to charge. When it's ready, Tanis meets Typhon on Necrotafeo, and the Vault Hunters join them to finally open the machine that chained the Destroyer. They insert the final key, and the path to the Pyre of the Stars opens, leading Tanis to surmise that the vaults on Pandora, Promethea, Eden 6, and Necrotafeo must be the power sources for the machine. The trio then work to activate the connections to the vaults, and when they're all connected, Lilith and Ava arrive to watch Tanis activate the machine. As she does, Tyreen sends waves of COV forces to try to stop them from sealing the Destroyer, as she still intends to leech its power to become a god. While the hunters put up a valiant effort protecting Tanis, Tyreen eventually teleports in to take care of things herself. She immediately stops Tanis and destroys the machine in a snap. When she grabs Lilith, Typhon is forced to subdue her with his energy whip. Tyreen chokes her father in turn, causing him to pull out a grenade in an attempt to blow her up alongside himself. Tyreen instead absorbs the blast and directs it towards Typhon, sending him flying back into a wall. Tyreen then teleports back to Pandora to await the Great Vault's opening. Lilith and the others rush over to Typhon, but find that it's too late for him. With his last words, the first Vault Hunter makes them promise him that they won't be the last. With no other choice, Tanis redirects the energy from the machine to open a portal to Pandora, and the Crimson Raiders prepare to take down Tyreen before she can leech the Destroyer's power. Unfortunately, they arrive moments too late, as they witness the remaining Calypso twin combine with the ancient monster to become Tyreen the Destroyer. Thus begins the largest battle the galaxy has ever known, and by far the most crucial. Per Lilith's instruction, the Vault Hunters show Tyreen that gods can bleed, and they fire at her with all of the munitions the various corporations of Pandora produced in the final effort to save the planet and the universe itself. Defying all odds, the Vault Hunters are able to bring the massive combination of Siren and Ancient Beasts down, finally destroying the Destroyer for good, or at least until Gearbox decides they need it as a villain again. As it's defeated, Lilith's siren powers are returned to her, and she triumphantly spreads her fiery wings once again. While the threat of the Destroyer is gone, Tanis quickly notes that the danger is far from over. The charged Elpis is still tearing Pandora apart in order to open the Great Vault, and it won't stop unless they somehow remove the moon from the sky. Lilith simply looks over to Ava and tells her, "Sanctuary's yours. Be ready," before flying directly towards Elpis. Tanis frantically questions what she's doing, and Ava knowingly explains that she's sacrificing herself to save Pandora. In a flash of light seen across the galaxy, Lilith stops the Elpis moon from opening Pandora. Ava and Tanis look up towards it to find that while Lilith is gone, her Firehawk insignia now graces the face of the massive moon, forever lighting the way for future Vault Hunters. With the Calypso crisis over, Mad Moxxi sets her sights on a more personal score, a space station casino called the Handsome Jackpot, an opulent monument to her ex, Handsome Jack. Years ago, Jack cheated Moxxi out of this casino, so now she recruits the new Vault Hunters to help her take it back and rob it blind. Upon arrival, they find the station in chaos. Jack's death left it overrun by his hardened loader bots and swarms of stranded gamblers who've gone feral. An upstart mob boss named Pretty Boy has seized control of the casino's security and refuses to give up his new fiefdom without a fight. Moxxi's crew battles through gaudy districts and derelict vaults of the casino, picking up eccentric allies along the way, including a pyromaniac entertainer named Ember. Another such ally is Timothy Lawrence, one of Handsome Jack's former body doubles and vault hunters, who has been trapped on the Jackpot ever since his boss's demise. Timothy's face-grafted mask and DNA-linked cybernetic hand make the casino systems think he's Jack, meaning he can't escape, and worse, everyone he meets tends to shoot first, assuming Jack has somehow survived. With the Vault Hunter's help, Timothy overcomes his own reputation and aids in the heist, seeking redemption from Jack's shadow. Together, they topple Pretty Boy's operations, including quelling a robot gang uprising in a trash heap called Trashlantis, and foiling a double-cross by a hacker named Freddy. In a climactic showdown, the team confronts Pretty Boy in his reinforced VIP tower. The crime boss plugs his consciousness into the casino's ultimate vault mech, a giant loader called Jackpot, the Jack's Bot, forcing the Vault Hunters to dismantle the mighty machine and bring him down for good. With Pretty Boy defeated, Moxxi finally seizes control of the handsome Jackpot. Rather than simply loot and leave, she makes a point to right Jack's wrongs, clearing the casino guests' debts and liberating the poor souls Jack had trapped there, including Ember. The grand heist concludes on a celebratory note, and Moxxi even promises Timothy a real date on the paradise he helped her steal. The Crimson Raiders then return to Sanctuary, chalking up another win and a long overdue revenge against the ghost of Handsome Jack. Sometime later, the Vault Hunters receive a far friendlier invitation: the wedding of Sir Alistair Hammerlock and Wainwright Jacobs. The dashing big game hunter and the Jacobs heir have chosen the icebound planet of Xylorgos for their matrimonial celebration, lured by its exotic locale and, of course, legendary wildlife. When they arrive on the frozen planet, the hunters meet the wedding planners in this bizarre adventure. None other than Gage, the former Vault Hunter turned party planner, and her ever-faithful robot, Deathtrap, both happy to help their old friends tie the knot. The group soon arrive in the frosty town of Cursehaven, where they enter the Lodge, meeting with Hammerlock, Claptrap, and the Lodge's proprietor, a creepy man named Mancubus Bloodtooth. While decorating the Lodge, the group get a call from Wainwright, who has them secretly meet him in the town. When the hunters exit out into Cursehaven, however, they find the festivities threatened by an ancient occult danger. The planet is crawling with eerie cultists, worshipping a long-dead vault monster known as Githian, whose gigantic tentacled corpse looms over the landscape. They meet with Wainwright to inspect the venue, which becomes complicated when they interrupt a cult ritual being conducted by its leaders, Eleanor and Vincent. The hunters defeat Vincent, revealing his spirit to be tied to a ring, which falls from the hand of a poor cultist who was forced to be the researcher's current host. The part that's complicated is when the ring fuses with Wainwright, connecting him with Vincent. While Gage rescues Jacobs, when they bring him back to the Lodge, the groom-to-be starts hearing whispers, marking him as the chosen vessel for Vincent's influence. To save Wainwright and the wedding, the party works with a local detective named Burton Briggs to try to figure out how to remove the ring. They learn of Eleanor and her husband Vincent's past as doll researchers, before they found the corpse of Githian and its still-beating heart, which Vincent believed to be the key to immortality. Learning that the ring is tied to Githian's heart, the group then ventures to the cursed peak of Nagul Nashai, where the heart lies sealed. After being guided by a hunter named Aista, the Vault Hunters regroup with Hammerlock to hunt a legendary Wendigo to use its fiery Kaif to melt the ice blocking their way. The Vault Hunters then storm the old doll base on the mountain, using Deathtrap's laser eye to blast through to a piece of the Githian heart. Deathtrap then powers up, using the facility's reactor. The group then head to the wedding venue, where Deathtrap uses his newfound power to remove a barrier surrounding it. The hunters then enter the venue and fight underground, entering the belly of the beast and confronting Eleanor in a final showdown. In an epic battle of guns and tentacles, the Vault Hunters manage to slay Eleanor and the Heart of Githian, putting its influence to rest at last. The real Vincent then emerges from the remains of Githian's heart, which he became merged with during his research, before he and Eleanor die side by side. Wainwright is then freed from his curse as Vincent's influence fades for good. In the aftermath, Hammerlock and Wainwright decide that there's no time like the present. They hold an impromptu wedding with the Vault Hunter enthusiastically officiating. At long last, using the rings recovered from Eleanor and Vincent, Sir Hammerlock and Wainwright Jacobs are married, sealing their bond till death do them part. And considering the weekend they've had, that phrase carries a little extra weight. Soon after, the Vault Hunters answer a distant call for help on Gehenna, a frontier planet once owned by the Jacobs Corporation and left to rot after secret experiments went awry. Since they left, however, the planet has come under siege by a vicious gang called the Devil Riders, looking to unearth Jacobs' old experiments. Landing on the planet, they meet a friendly guide named Rose, along with her pet devil, Torgue, who agree to take them to meet the sheriff. On their way, however, Torgue is injured and Rose puts him down with her pistol. The group then reach the town of Vestige, where Rose leaves them to meet with the sheriff. When they're introduced, he shows them to the Obsidian Stone, a large glowing rock in the town's center square. Suddenly, they're interrupted by an attack by the Devil Riders, led by their fearless leader, Butcher Rose, the very same guide that led them to town. The sheriff of Vestige is gunned down in cold blood by Rose, and her Devil Riders teleport the Obsidian Stone away as Rose leaves with it. With his final breath, the sheriff gives his badge to the hunters, instructing them to give it to Juno, a tough-as-nails rancher with outlaw ties to the gang. Juno shows them to the Devil Riders' hideout, and on their way, the hunters learn of an enigmatic substance called core, a powerful mineral native to Gehenna that Jacobs researchers once tried to weaponize. The hunters head to the hideout and free another bounty hunter named Titus on the way. He joins them to the hideout where they learn that the Obsidian Stone is actually an egg, containing a dormant monster called the Ruiner, born of the old Jacobs experiments. In fact, Rose's own grandmother was part of the Jacobs experiments years ago to create the biological superweapon using the core on Gehenna. Now Rose intends to finish what her grandmother started. Racing against time, the Vault Hunters stop a train carrying a cache of core for Rose before meeting Juno at the old Jacobs facility it was meant to deliver it to. She helps them get inside, where they fight through the Devil Riders' strongest forces while chasing Rose. Despite their efforts, Rose succeeds in dropping a massive bomb on the egg in an attempt to crack it open. The Vault Hunters chase her to the impact crater, where Butcher Rose prepares to take the reins of Ruin. A brutal gunfight then ensues between the Butcher and the Hunters. Rose is ultimately defeated in battle, but as she lies dying, she whistles a tune that causes the egg to hatch. From it emerges the Ruiner, a colossal rampaging beast engineered from Gehenna's feral creatures that's just as fearsome as any Vault Guardian. In a sweep of dust, Rose vanishes, possibly dead by the Vault Hunter's hand, or perhaps she slipped away amidst the chaos. Either way, the Vault Hunters then slay the charging behemoth in an earth-shaking battle that rattles the very foundations of the planet Gehenna. When the gun smoke clears, the Ruiner lies defeated, ending the Jacobs Corporation's ill-fated core experiment once and for all. In the aftermath, Vestige and the people of Gehenna begin to rebuild without the Devil Riders' terror. The Vault Hunters then ride off into the proverbial sunset, now that the West was won, Crimson Raider style. Back on Sanctuary 3, Dr. Patricia Tanis presents the Vault Hunters with one of their strangest missions yet. Tanis has been studying the deranged minds of Pandora's psycho bandits and believes she's found a common thread, a mysterious place or entity all psychos rave about in their madness, which she's dubbed Vault Hollow. Convinced that this could be a key to understanding the psychos and the vaults themselves, Tanis builds a device to literally dive into a psycho's mind. For this experiment, she enlists Krieg, the Crimson Raider's own resident psycho, and former Vault Hunter who fought alongside Maya. When the Vault Hunters enter Krieg's mind, they find it split between his uncontrollable raging persona, Psycho Krieg, and a sane inner voice, Sane Krieg, that retains his gentle, heroic intentions. After meeting the two sides of Krieg personified, the explorers begin to piece together Krieg's story while searching for access to Valhalla. Along the way, they encounter warped, nightmarish visions of old friends. Twisted, evil versions of Brick, Mordecai, and Lilith attack, representations of how Psycho Krieg distorted those memories. With sane Krieg's help, the Vault Hunters defeat these malevolent memory phantoms and remind Krieg of the genuine friendship and trust those characters gave him, healing those mental wounds. In contrast, one memory shines pure and untarnished, that of Maya. Krieg's love for the late Siren is so strong that Psycho Krieg kept Maya's memory protected from corruption. When the Vault Hunters reach a mental echo of Maya meditating in a Crimson train station, she even hears Krieg's sane voice and offers gentle encouragement, implying that Maya was always able to sense Krieg's true self. However, Maya is soon swept up by a bizarre locomotive called the Locomobius, an angry, sentient train in Krieg's mind. They're able to fight the train and free Maya's image, gaining Krieg's mythical Buzz Axe and Power Gauntlet in the process, symbolic keys needed to unlock Valhalla. The final piece of Krieg's psyche lies back where it all began. The Vault Hunters venture into a recreation of the Hyperion facility, where Krieg was tortured. They witness fragments of Dr. Benedict's cruel experiments, the procedures that shattered Krieg's mind in the first place. They defeat the memory recreation of Dr. Benedict and finally reach the hidden memories of Krieg's past, only to find them completely erased. However, both sides of Krieg are content with losing their past, agreeing to face the future together. With the symbolic items collected, his axe, gauntlet, and mask, the Vault Hunters complete the inner totem that opens Valhalla, the innermost vault of Krieg's mind. Inside, they finally encounter the personification of Krieg's unchecked rage, the hulking Psycho Reaver. A titanic battle then erupts in the mental throne room of Valhalla. The Vault Hunters, aided by both Sane and Psycho Krieg, do the impossible and slay the Psycho Reaver, conquering Krieg's inner demon. In that moment, Sane Krieg faces a choice: seize control and finally silence the Psycho forever, or acknowledge that his other half is just as much him as he is. In a touching resolution, Krieg's two halves decide to reconcile instead of separate. Sane Krieg then thanks his violent counterpart for protecting what mattered most, his love for Maya and his friends, and he chooses to remain by his side, guiding him rather than trying to erase him. The consciousness of Krieg essentially fuses back together, not fully cured, but more at peace than he's been in a long time. As the Vault Hunters depart the now calm mindscape, they witness a final heartfelt vision. In a tranquil mental meadow, Krieg imagines a humble home with Maya standing in the doorway, inviting him in. Psycho and Sane Krieg walk towards her and merge into the single Krieg we know, who finally finds a measure of inner peace. In the wake of the Calypso cult's fall, young Ava, now the Crimson Raiders' siren in training, takes it upon herself to play detective. Eager to prove herself and train with her new siren powers inherited from Maya, Ava starts a podcast titled Mysteriouslier to investigate a rash of strange murders across the galaxy. She ropes in the Vault Hunters as field assistants in this paranormal true crime adventure, determined to uncover the truth behind these supernatural slayings. The murders certainly seem otherworldly at first glance. On Promethea, they reunite with Lorelei and delve into the case of an urban legend killer in the neon streets of Eshatan Row. On Eden 6, they track a series of unexplained disappearances, with the killer vanishing into thin air in the swampy backwoods. On Pandora, they confront what locals swear is an angry ghost in a canyon settlement. Each incident features witnesses describing spectral figures, inexplicable phenomena, and victims who died under freakish circumstances. Ava, ever the horror enthusiast, is thrilled at the possibility of real-life hauntings, but the Vault Hunters remain skeptical, looking for a more realistic culprit. The trail ultimately leads the crew to Necro-Defale, where the final grisly incident occurs at a place called the Scryer's Crypt. Deep in the ancient crypt, Ava and the Vault Hunters discover the truth, The culprit behind everything is an entity known as the Seer. This mysterious figure, seemingly some kind of guardian, was not only behind the supernatural murders, but also pulling the strings to ensure the Calypso twins' defeat all along. The Seer reveals itself as an otherworldly being driven by a single goal: keeping the path of fate moving in a certain direction. To the Seer, sirens are causals, abominations with the power to change fate, and Lilith wound up not only averting the course of fate, but shattering it entirely. The Seer, now knowing that sirens can't be controlled, instead decides to remove them entirely. Ava refuses to back down, and the final battle erupts in the depths of Scryer's crypt. The Seer unleashes otherworldly power, but Ava, growing into her siren abilities, overcomes the odds and fights back alongside the Vault Hunters. Ultimately, the team shoots down the Seer in a blaze of gunfire and siren energy. With the case solved, Ava triumphantly anticipates broadcasting the final episode of her Mysteriouslier podcast. For now, though, Ava reflects on something the Guardian told her, that she would find what she was seeking, leading Ava to determine that it can only mean one thing: Lilith is still out there, and the Crimson Raiders are going to find her. 1 year after the defeat of Maliwan on Promethea, the war-torn metropolis is finally recovering. However, the Atlas Corporation is struggling, needing something big to compete with their counterparts. It's on Atlas's new space station headquarters that we meet scientist Dr. Anurada Dar, letting loose a group of their Jabber animal test subjects out of protest. Anu returns to her work on harnessing iridium energy to reproduce the abilities of sirens, namely Lilith's ability to teleport objects through space-time. She's able to harness the ability into a non-lethal gun with help from her research assistant, Fuang. Anu takes the gun to demonstrate it to Atlas CEO Rhys Strongfork, but he quickly dismisses her ambitions. Solely focused on Atlas's arms race with his competitors, Rhys sees no value in technology that doesn't kill, and unceremoniously fires Anu due to her antics with the Jabbers. Dejected, Anu begins preparing to leave the station, only for Fuang to warn her that the headquarters has suddenly come under siege. Tediore Corporation, led by their CEO Susan Caldwell, launches a surprise invasion, targeting a vault key that Rhys is supposedly holding. Amidst the chaos, Fuang creates a distraction so Anu can escape, and she flees the station in a familiar stolen shuttle car, crashing down towards the streets of Promethea. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, we meet Octavio Wallace Dar, Anu's adopted brother. A smooth-talking hustler with big dreams and little to show for them, Octavio spends his morning bragging to his assassination bot friend, Louis, about his inevitable rise to fame. After assisting Louis with a contract, Octavio looks to make connections around Meridian City to finally secure his breakthrough. However, his scheming is cut short when Tediore's attack on Promethea begins, forcing Octavio and Louis to take cover. Elsewhere, Fran Miskowitz, owner of the struggling Franz Frogert, starts her day as usual, helping customers such as Lorelei, who has transitioned, now going by Lore, dealing with protection rackets, and battling insurance companies over claims for damages from the Atlas-Maliwan War. Fran's day is quickly overshadowed by the sight of Tediore ships descending on the city, but as she prepares to defend her shop, Octavio and Louis come crashing in, bringing Tediore forces right behind them. Meanwhile, Anu awakens to find herself face-to-face with a psycho named Stapleface, who takes a strange liking to Anu, protecting her from other, more hostile psychos. Anu is forced to separate from Stapleface to look for Octavio, and arrives at Fran's just in time to watch it explode from Tediore explosives. In the aftermath of Fran's shop being destroyed, Anu and Octavio reunite, and after a bit of an argument, she meets Fran. The trio eventually band together, realizing Tediore's invasion has tied their fates together. Louis follows closely behind them, providing dry humor with a side of lethality. Anu receives a call from Rhys with some good news and some bad news. The good news is that Atlas found a key for a vault on Promethea. The bad news is that Tediore stole it. Rhys begs her to find it for the sake of the company. Looking for the vault so they can get to the treasure before Tediore, the group follows the trail of troops into the underground of Promethea. There, they're able to find the heavily guarded vault entrance. The group sneak in and watch as the Vault Guardians slaughter the Tediore soldiers, but find their way into the vault safely. Inside, they find themselves face to face with the vault's monster, a massive beast known only as the Devourer. Together, the unlikely allies manage to bring it down, with Anu using her device to phase it somewhere else. After the battle, the group recovers a mysterious green crystal shard left in the Devourer's wake, humming with unknown energy. Anu studies it and realizes its properties are unlike anything she's ever seen. Octavio, of course, immediately sees the potential to make a fortune, while Fran is simply happy to have something tangible to hit Tediore with. The group escapes before Tediore can catch up to them, but as they emerge back onto the streets of Meridian City, one thing is clear. Tediore's invasion wasn't about Promethea at all. It was about the vault, and more specifically, the shard inside. Unfortunately for them, in the rubble left behind from their battle with the Devourer, a Tediore crew finds Anu's Atlas ID badge. Back at Franz Frogurt, Anu studies the green shard and discovers that it contains powerful, restorative energy. When Octavio accidentally heals an injury with it, the group realizes its potential. Anu is then able to craft the shard into a healing gun using parts from around the Froyo shop. Octavio suggests they pitch it as a revolutionary product to secure funding, while Anu insists it should be used to save lives, not for profit. Fran, still reeling from the loss of her shop, is willing to go along so long as it hurts Tediore and helps her rebuild. The trio decides to enter Sink or Swim, Promethea's televised startup competition. On stage, Anu presents her upgraded ray gun, now harnessing the shard's healing energy. As soon as she mentions that the gun heals instead of harms, however, the host, Finnegan W. Triton, declares the idea shall sink. He then opens a trapdoor leading to a pool of sharks, but Octavio and Fran come to her rescue. Though she's attacked by the sharks, the others are able to pull her out of the pool and use the healing gun to reverse the effects of the attack instantly. While Anu is healed, for a moment, she seems possessed, as her eyes glow green and another voice speaks through her. Despite their idea sinking, the demonstration attracts the attention of a mysterious angel investor, who calls and promises them $1 million. The group then returns to Fran's to determine how to move the business forward. Fran decides to scout talent, Anu decides to go to the morgue to acquire test tissue, while Octavio scouts a new headquarters, considering the Froyo shop is hanging on by a thread. When Anu reaches the Meridian City morgue, she meets the Keeper of the Dead, a nice enough old woman who luckily has plenty of product to sell. Unfortunately, that product is candles. While the Keeper is initially insulted by Anu's request to purchase a cadaver, the old woman offers to show her a spare corpse that she's got in the back. Anu's blind trust comes back to bite her though, as the Keeper throws her in a coffin and locks her in, looking to claim the bounty that Tediore has on Anu's head. Thankfully, Tediore takes too long to arrive, and Anu has enough time to punch her way out of the wooden prison. While she's unable to secure a sample, Anu rushes out into Meridian City, where the locals help her skirt Tediore forces to reunite with Octavio. Octavio then takes Anu to the new headquarters that he purchased with all of the angel investors' money, Franz Frogurt. Having bought the location sight unseen, he somehow didn't realize, even upon arriving, that it was the same rubble he was standing in merely hours prior. It's an absolutely hilarious situation that's totally feasible. I don't know if I made this clear, but I really didn't like this part of the game. When Fran arrives, she could care less, because she found their help, a beefcake named Fergus who's willing to provide free labor. Their conversation is cut short when Tediore forces storm the shop, and Anu is immediately shot in the head. Luckily, Octavio is able to use the shop's new defense systems to fend off Tediore, leaving him and Fran alone with Anu's lifeless body. With no other choice, Octavio uses the healing gun on Anu, and she miraculously springs back to life. However, she's soon taken over yet again by whatever came over her during Sink or Swim. A spirit begins to speak through Anu, demanding to be made whole. Octavio promises to do so in exchange for the spirit to return control of Anu's body. While the trio commiserate over their failures in trying to run the business, they decide to contact someone more experienced, their angel investor. Soon after, an armored vehicle arrives and whisks them away to a luxurious hacienda to offer sanctuary from Tediore. When they arrive at the estate, each of them is quietly separated and handed to a seemingly perfect situation crafted just for them. Octavio gets fame, fortune, and VIP party treatment, Anu gets unlimited research budget with no oversight, and Fran gets a massive Frogurt empire where everything finally goes her way. It's fulfilling, it's comforting, and it's completely fake. One by one, the dreams curdle and turn against them. Fran figures it out first, reliving the moments where her rage first took over her and made her activate her hoverchair's mecha mode before causing massive damage. She breaks free of the illusion and busts Louis out of a stasis lock before tracking down Anu and Octavio, who've been dumped into cages. Once the gang is together again, the ruse is finally revealed. Tediore CEO Susan Coldwell introduces herself as both the angel investor and their captor. She takes the healing device from Anu before opening a conference call with all of the other big corporate players, including Athena, who has taken over Hyperion, and Katagawa Sr., now in charge of Malawan, demanding that each of them merge into Tediore or be destroyed. She then unveils why she's been chasing the green shard. It's actually one half of a set, the other of which, a red shard, she already owns. The green shard heals, while the red one harms, and together the shards power a torture engine that kills and resurrects on loop. To demonstrate her new weapon, she runs the cycle on Octavio, while the others are forced to watch. Suddenly, that same alien presence that touched Anu at Sink or Swim emerges again. It takes over, telekinetically ripping the green shard out of Coldwell's device and into Anu's chest. The spirit then breaks out of the cage and tries to fuse with the other shard, but Anu's inner desire to check on Octavio fights back, causing her to pass out. With the demo complete and the green shard inside of the scientist, Coldwell has Anu taken by her men to attempt to remove it. Octavio is then dragged off to a holding cell for leverage, while Fran and Louis are marked for execution. Later, Anu lies motionless on a medical table, the green crystal glimmering in her chest as Tediore surgeons prepare to extract it. Octavio is chained in a darkened cell, his mind haunted by his recent torture. Fran and Louis are dragged away, their execution seemingly inevitable. While unconscious, Anu drifts deep into her mind, taking the place of a Jabber test subject in a journey through her memories. The shard guides her through an ethereal realm as she encounters Fwong and revisits her mistakes. Meanwhile, outside, Octavio is able to outsmart his captors by threatening his own life in order to force his release, since they were given strict orders to ensure his survival. Elsewhere, Fran's anger erupts and she turns the tables on her would-be executors, taking them out instead, freeing her and Louis as well. Back in Anu's subconscious, she spends the next part of her shard-guided spiritual journey inside Octavio's shoes. She realizes her refusal to actually listen to what her brother has to say, recognizing the rift she's creating between them and learning how to build a bridge. Outside, Octavio reunites with Fran and Louis, and the trio begin the search for Anu in Coldwell's office. Octavio steals her experimental tech and uses it to track Anu's location. Inside Anu's mind, she finally confronts Reese and admits her fears and insecurities. She forgives herself, soaring with siren-like wings in the shard's realm. With her journey complete, Anu awakens on the operating table to find Octavio, Fran, and Louis entering the room to find her. Luckily, Anu is guarded by Stapleface, now working for Tediore, I guess. Octavio accidentally launches the building into space using Coldwell's tech, and while the group initially elect to run to escape pods, Anu convinces them that they need to stop Coldwell before she can use a weapon that Anu accidentally helped develop to attack Promethea. With Stapleface's help, the group gets to the bridge, but the friendly Psycho is shot in the process. They're forced to leave Stapleface behind to die, rushing to the bridge as security forces give chase. As Octavio and Anu argue over whether or not she should remove the shard, the Tediore guards have ample time to line up a shot, forcing Louis to sacrifice himself by jumping in front of the bullet, killing the robot. On the bridge, they find Susan Coldwell, who unleashes her superweapon on Promethea. Across the planet, a massive amount of the population dies instantly. Coldwell clamps Anu in a mechanical grip and demands she fuse the shard in her chest with Susan's own red shard. That union would resurrect Promethea, but only if Anu gives up her human form. Faced with a choice, Anu can merge with the reunited shard or refuse it and let it empower Coldwell instead. Whichever happens, the combined entity is ultimately defeated and Coldwell is killed. After the final battle, the shard recombines and soars into space, resurrecting Promethea's inhabitants. How the story ends depends on the bonds our three heroes built during their adventure. If Anu lets the shard consume her, or fails to reconcile with Octavio, she vanishes in the fusion. Octavio and Fran survive, but are forever shaped by her absence. If Octavio's bond was weakened, he dies during the escape. Anu and Fran live on, instead haunted by his loss. If Fran's bond faltered, she sacrifices herself mid-battle. Anu and Octavio escape, starting a consulting firm without her, but never forgetting her sacrifice, as well as her unpaid intern who followed her into death. If their bonds were strong but fractured, Anu, Octavio, and Fran survive, but go their separate ways, each carrying memories and scars. However, if they trusted each other deeply, all three survive and emerge together, starting a consulting firm on Promethea with Louis rebuilt by their side, even assisting Reese in getting Atlas back and fully functional. After it's all over, Marcus Kincaid relays the tale to Fiona, which she listens to with a grin, before pinching his wallet and dashing off. She follows the drifting shard into the Gladius Nebula, proving that in the Borderlands, every ending leads to a new beginning. Sometime later, we find Amara, the siren who helped the Crimson Raiders stop the Calypso twins, looking for excitement now that her legend has started to die down. Luckily, Moxxi has a job for her, tracking down a lover of hers named Lyle who stole a family heirloom from her. Moxxi wants the keepsake, and Lyle returned to her, offering a handsome reward. Amara heads towards Rancid City on Promethea with two other mercenary friends of Moxxi's, a gunslinger named Ziff and his loyal companion, Varen. They stop by Marcus on the way to stock up on weapons, but are forced to make a quick escape when the town's attacked by bandits. On the road, the group are followed by another vehicle, which they run from, believing it to be more bandits. When the larger vehicle literally swallows theirs, they're relieved to find it to be piloted by Moxxi's daughter, Ellie. Ellie reveals that Moxxi lied about the statue. It's not a family heirloom, and it was actually stolen from a vault by one of her boyfriends. Not wanting a vault artifact to fall into the wrong hands, Ellie takes the others to Rancid City to find the statue, called the Cacao. As they arrive, Ellie warns them about Auntie Tio, the region's crime lord as well as Lyle's grandmother. Amara, Ziff, and Varen then head into the belly of the beast to search the city for the stolen statue. There, the trio meet a familiar face, Lore, who runs the newest location of his coffee franchise, No Roast for the Wicked, in the city. Their conversation is cut short when the shop is attacked, forcing the group to completely destroy Lore's new investment, fighting off their attackers. With nothing else to do now, Lore joins the group in their hunt, hoping to make some money to rebuild his shop. Unfortunately, they get hungry and soon stop to eat, leaving a bored Varen to wander off looking at cheap upgrades. The proprietor of Luz Electronics then leads him into the back room, where he's captured in some kind of stasis chamber. Meanwhile, while the others are eating, they're suddenly ambushed by Auntie Tio herself, demanding they tell her where her grandson, Lyle, was taken. Tio takes them back to her home, where they naturally deny any knowledge of Lyle's disappearance. While she believes them, she decides to eliminate them anyway, forcing Ziff to jump in and offer the group's help in tracking down Lyle in exchange for their lives. Tio agrees to allow them to search for Lyle, but before they can begin, they must search for their missing companion, Varen. They follow a tip to Lou's electronics, where they enter the back room, and are immediately captured in the same stasis pod. Varen then enters with Lou, apparently now allies, and insists that he knows the others. Lou then frees them, introducing them to the City Merchants Association, which looks to take down big business control. Lyle crossed them as well, so they're also searching for him. Coincidentally, Lou's men find Lyle, and he goes with Moxxi's heroes to the antiques market to stop his attempt to sell the Cacaw statue. They confront him, and Lyle admits that he stole the statue to try to make his own fortune to crawl out from the shadow of being a Nepo baby. Lyle tries to run, but the others give chase, tackling him. Unfortunately, he drops the statue, and it shatters into pieces as it hits the ground. Varen scans the material and realizes that the statue was a fake all along. Among the shattered pieces was Moxxi's real prized possession, a letter from Scooter. Ellie reads the letter, and in it, Scooter gives his mother a final gift, telling her to just say the phrase, "And this bird's got you covered." Ellie then says the phrase, "Catch a ride," and the bird is revealed. The ground shakes, and Tio's men immediately start firing as a massive, mechanical bird descends from the sky. While Ellie tries to take control of it with a device that was also in the statue, Lyle steals it before quickly getting vaporized by the bird's flamethrower eyes, dropping it. The bird goes on a rampage, slaughtering both Lou and Tio's men as they continue firing on him. When Auntie Tio refuses to surrender, the massive bird simply crushes her beneath its talon. Ellie suddenly pleads with Lou's men to stand down, and when they do, the bird goes into sleep mode. Ellie realizes that the bird is strictly a defense weapon, attacking only when it is attacked. Ellie then finds a hidden recording from Scooter, taken just before he took off to space. In it, he explains the invention to Moxxi, that while he knows his mother and sister can take care of themselves, you never know when you need a little something extra. In the wake of the destruction, the City Merchants Association realizes that they can use Tio's assets to fund social services for Rancid, returning it to its original name of Sidron City. Ziff gets a steady job, and Lore rebuilds his coffee shop bigger and better than ever. Ellie and Moxxi, meanwhile, got their family treasure back, as well as Scooter's heirloom, his prized belt buckle. Sometime later, Amara returns to Moxxi at her bar, where she's congratulated on a job well done. The pair are suddenly joined by fellow Crimson Raider Zane Flint, who reveals that he's there to collect Amara, whom he volunteered to watch Ava's pet. While Amara is opposed to the idea of pet sitting, she and Moxxi do decide to catch a ride on Sanctuary 3. Zane asks where they're headed to, and they simply say that they have a sizable debt to pay back to someone else. Zane then realizes that they're talking about Lilith, and they confirm, stating that Vault Hunters don't quit. The search for Lilith then begins, as we see Sanctuary 3 approach the planet of Kairos. With that, we've reached the end of the Borderlands saga, at least as it stands today. From Pandora's first Vault Hunters all the way through corporate wars, cosmic horrors, and chaotic fantasy worlds, the series has carved out one of gaming's wildest and unpredictable timelines. Of course, with another trip into the Borderlands like hours away, there's sure to be even more chaos, more claptraps, and more vaults to add to this ever-expanding universe. After all, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this full recap, please consider leaving a like, dropping a comment with what you'd like to see next, and subscribing for more videos just like this one. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, you can check out my Patreon or channel memberships for some extra perks. Speaking of, a huge thank you goes out to all of my patrons and channel members, with a special shout out to those folks on screen now. Your support really helps me keep these massive projects going and feeding my lovely little kitties. As always, this has been Suggestive Gaming, and now you're in the know.